What's up, crazy people? This is Stage Clear, the Stage Clear podcast with your host Tim and my co-host here, James.
One and only. Greetings and salutations, everyone. Looking forward to our episode today.
Yes, episode 7, Stage 7, as some might call it.
Ah, nice.
Got a shorter one for you today. Some technical difficulties, a bunch of other stuff. Life happens, right? We're gonna push on through, get some topics for you, get some things going. I think it'll be good. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We got new people coming in from all over the place, new subscribers, new people watching the videos. Those YouTube shorts are finally like kind of taking off, getting some views from there. So I'm glad that you guys like the stuff. It's all available, like I said, clips and everything, shorter clips for those that are listening to the audio version only on Spotify or wherever you listen. There are shorter clips on YouTube, little segments ranging from 5 to 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how good the segment is or how long we talk about a topic. Check us out on YouTube at Stage Clear Podcast. Search, just on YouTube, search that up. We got, like I said, we're available on all your podcasting platforms for audio only. If you're on a long drive or whatever, appreciate a 5-star rating and a review there. That's what helps it grow. So please, if you're listening, definitely leave a review. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. We got all sorts of other projects. All this stuff is in the description. You can follow us on social medias and all that plug stuff. Yeah. So probably ready to start now.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I like the plugs, man. You're getting better at that.
We got to do it. Necessary. It's a necessary evil.
Yes, it
Um,
is. Yes, it is.
but to get to this week, how was your week, James? What happened? What happened in your world?
My world.
Yeah, tell us your truth, James.
You know, it's funny, man. I feel like I'm always having very interesting conversations with people, and things are always happening. One on a light note, just starting out. I we had a meeting with my soccer job, and we
Ooh,
met in the city of Santa Monica. It was in the evening, kind of cold, so I don't think everyone would have really cared for that, but it was nice. But I was actually voted coach of the season, and yeah, it was
hey,
yeah. So it was actually nice to be acknowledged and stuff like that. The only thing is, and I don't want to seem like I'm ungrateful, but I feel like I've almost been with this company for about 10 years, and I've actually, for the last, I don't know, the last few years, I've actually had a lot of people, re-sign up for for our soccer company just because I kind of, I
encourage
brought
them.
an energy. Yeah, yeah. Well, I actually brought an energy that they really enjoyed, so they would just keep on coming, sometimes for a whole year, 3, 4 seasons straight, and so I just thought it was interesting how I almost, I don't want to think this way, but I almost feel like I was voted coach of the season. It was almost like, oh yeah, yeah, we forgot James. He's really, a lot of, yeah, it's been literally 10 years, and yeah, I mean, yeah. So part of me, I thought, oh, I mean, I still feel grateful. It was really nice to get acknowledged, but at the same time, I kind of feel like, the families do a really good job at acknowledging me already. So
Yeah,
I don't really,
long time coming.
yeah, okay, there you go, there you go, there you
Yeah,
go. But yeah, so that was nice. That was nice. It wasn't, yeah,
that's
nice
that's
to,
good. And I know you said you got like a raise or something recently. So it's good. You've been so loyal to the company, doing so good that they're acknowledging that. It's kind of weird they didn't give it to you yet. Like before, who would the previous coaches of the seasons be? Like, what were they? Like, did you know them? Were they good people? Were they as good as you? Not to compare or anything, it's not very healthy, but
you,
do it
you, you
anyway.
know what? I'm gonna say earlier in the first maybe 2, 3 years I was with the company. Um, it did seem like I knew that the guys that were stepping up and getting this coach of the season thing, yeah, they really earned it, But after a while, it seemed like it was always somebody that was with us for just a few weeks or a few months, almost, yeah, even a few months or maybe a year or two. And I don't know. I think I've told you about the company I work for. I don't know what the dynamic is. I think it's different variables, but yeah, a lot of people don't stay. We have most of the people that are with us currently. Yeah, they've been with us for less than 3, 4 years, and a lot of times they're usually on their way out after a while. It's like okay,
Yeah.
it's kind of like one of those stepping stone kind of jobs. So I don't really, but I just thought it was very interesting how like almost a decade, and now it's like, oh hey, Coach James, hey, hey,
Way to stick
hey,
it out.
let's acknowledge you, and so and
Yeah.
to me it's kind of like, okay, so I don't know, I think yeah, it was really interesting, but no, I do feel grateful for it, so it's cool. It's nice to always get acknowledged for
Getting
what you do.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And you, so like I said, you got some uh raises, but have they? I know you travel a bunch for this job, right? Like how many? 40, 50 miles sometimes, like both ways, right?
There has been times, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm wondering with all these inflated gas prices, especially like what you're in California, that's got to be
Oh,
like eating into your, weekly funds and stuff, is it not?
yeah, no, yeah. What I've learned to do personally is just I've talked to the job and let them know that if I'm going to be sent to a job, it has to be, maybe two, three classes at once, because there are times when they just had me drive 25, 30 plus miles just for one class, and that was it, and it's like, that's not going to work, so
Yeah.
let them know, hey, let it be like a whole block of classes if I'm going to, so like for this last two seasons, I've actually had one day where I'm there all day, a location in South Pasadena, and it's like six classes, so that helps financially a lot,
That's good.
yeah,
That seems like they worked it out
yeah,
well for you.
yeah. So I've kind of learned to I actually have to communicate with them and kind of even sometimes put my foot down and say, hey guys, if
Yeah.
yeah, so
Definitely got
that's
to
actually worked.
negotiate. You're the one in your corner, so you got to fight for
There you
that.
go, yeah,
I was
there you
just
go. There,
wondering if, because especially now with inflation and the gas price and everything, it seems like if you're not getting a substantial raise, you're literally just getting less paid less now because you're spending more on what you need to do, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah.
don't know if like I've heard different companies do gas cards and stuff. I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure it's just weird because it's not like the I guess a typical corporate job. It's more of like like you said, teaching kids, sports and everything. So it's a little different, but I
It
don't know.
is. It is. I will say overall they do accommodate, especially when they know you're going out your way, but it almost seems like you have to kind of voice it for
Yeah.
them to say, oh, hey, oh yeah,
Well,
let's
they're not
accommodate.
gonna give money away, James. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, but it's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, I've just learned that yeah, if the drive is not worth the money, then I'll pass it to someone else. And but so I think I feel like I have a good balance as of right now. So I'm pleased with that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anything else crazy?
Yeah. Yes.
Uh oh. Uh
Yeah, this one's probably gonna get us, some.
oh. Okay. All right. Let me hold on. Let me get my seatbelt. Let me just
Yeah.
let me buckle up here. 10 and 2, right?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. That's inspiration. I love that. Okay, so one of the ladies that
How
I
did I
know.
know? How did I know it was a lady? like, whenever you have a big story or something,
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah,
I have
yeah.
to prepare for,
Well,
it's
yeah,
always
yeah. So
about
this is
some
somebody.
woman.
Well, it's interesting because I talk to a lot of guys, and they never seem to really have,
Too
uh,
much to share.
yeah, yeah. And if it is, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like as guys, we're just accustomed to kind of knowing what the situation is, and it seems like a lot of the ladies I know, they just seem to always wrap themselves up and complicate their lives with guys, And
Yeah.
so one lady in particular, and I've never made reference to her before on this show, but um, she's somebody that she's the only other person that I think enjoys Disneyland more than like your mom. She's probably the only other person. The only
There's
other person.
yeah, we haven't talked about it before, but there is like a section of people that are just Disney people, right? It's their
Yeah,
they bleed it. It comes out of their veins.
no idea. Like a year or so ago that even existed. I just thought everybody went to Disneyland maybe at most once or twice a year.
Yep.
Like and I just thought that was, and I didn't realize the season pass thing was like something very serious for people.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, but apparently my female friend, she has been accepting gifts from an admirer. Yeah, she's been, and I think the last gift was about a little over $300.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, right. Yeah, you see how you responded like you naturally know.
Well, okay,
Uh,
you started out weird. You said an admirer, right? You didn't say boyfriend. You didn't say a
well, yeah,
prospective like
right. And
relationship. Is
Yeah,
this like a
exactly.
secretive admirer? She doesn't know the person's name or what?
She,
She's just
she
getting
hangs out with a guy. She hangs out with a guy. He actually works for Disney.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know to what capacity, but he works for Disney. He's doing very, very well for himself. I suspect that he has, yeah, he's been kind of showing interest in her for some time now. But I have actually explained to her that as she's explained all these things about, yeah, his text messages, the fact that he's dropping off random gifts to her, gift cards for $50 just because, and I'm telling you about the expand of this past year, just randomly sometimes hanging
Yeah.
out with her and here's a gift card for $50, $60. Here you go, just because.
Yeah.
No special occasion, it's just here you go, and yeah, yeah, and so I almost feel like my friend, she's denying the fact that this guy actually is interested in her. And what really complicates the situation is he actually has a girlfriend,
Ooh, that she knows about.
right? Perfectly where, yeah. And I guess they still sometimes even meet and go hang out at Disneyland for all day, my friend and this guy. And so yeah, I just was explaining to her that there has to be boundaries when it comes to male friends. And I say male friends because, and we've addressed this to some extent, but there are some ladies that they are entertaining the idea of having these male friends, and the guys really just ultimately want to sleep with them. They're not
Yeah.
really interested in the woman. They're interested in, being with her. They're not
Yeah.
her friend. And so
Don't mind me while I start to take some notes here about talking points, lest
yeah,
I
yeah,
forget.
yeah, oh yeah, and it's so funny we were talking about this because I actually was thinking about expanding on this a lot more on my own channel, like maybe even tomorrow. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's something that I think ladies need to be aware of is that.
To
Uh,
stop hoeing around or what? Huh?
I mean, I
Is
mean,
that what you're trying to say?
I almost want to say, even if they're not going that far with the sexual activity, be mindful that there are some men in your life that are actually admirers. They're interested in you, and if you're going around allowing them to pay for your meals and accommodate you and all this, and you have no intention of being with them, leave them alone and let them bring that energy to someone else that actually possibly wants to be with them. Like, stop entertaining them. Stop taking these gifts. Taking
Come
them.
on, James.
Like,
It's
yeah,
it's it.
you
Come on. Come on.
yeah. So it's
It's
just and the thing is, this particular lady, she's not a Christian, So I even told her, I made her a distinction. I said, and maybe because you don't have like a biblical worldview, maybe you don't really see anything wrong with this, But I was just saying, like, these guys obviously, they're interested in you and they're investing in you for that sole purpose. There's, and I just said, like,
investing. Like what?
yeah,
Women are
yeah,
just like once you get to this threshold of money, there's all these opportunities unlock. Come on now,
yeah,
James.
yeah, well, exactly. It's, for some ladies, they, and the thing is, this particular lady positioned herself in this kind of situation with another guy, like, I don't know, year or two ago, I think the guy had a rough situation in regards to living, and I
Yeah.
think he was supposed to be a friend as well. And yeah, he was giving her money because he would come every now and then just to kind of hang out and sometimes just sleep, even if it was on the floor. He would just sleep on the floor
Yeah.
at her place. And she's a single mom trying to, make do. And
Wait, she
but
says she's a mom with kids, and she has like some random dude coming and sleeping on the floor sometimes.
I had a pass with this guy, so I don't know if they were
Okay.
dating once upon a time or he's supposed to be a friend. But she did tell me that they were drinking one time, and this is for a previous relationship or just a friendship. But yeah, one thing led to another, and they did the deed, and so oops, we were just so I was just trying to help her understand that this kind of behavior doesn't really move her forward towards actually being taken seriously by somebody that may actually want to actually be with her in a serious manner. It actually repels men to stay away from her, and it only will attract like the goofballs, that really
Yeah.
won't take her seriously. And so it's actually sabotaging herself.
Well, James, I don't know if you're familiar with the kind of trend video games have been going down of where like microtransactions and everything, right? And how the vast majority of people aren't a fan of it, but the 1% that they can get to like buy in, right? The whale, as they would call it, is so
Okay.
profitable, so worth it that they're willing to destroy their reputation just to get that money. right?
I like that metaphor. I like that.
I can't help but see some similarities in these two threads, these two plot lines. I think there are some whales out there just in society that will just shill money out to whatever
Uh,
they're interested in, be it video games or women or whatever, right?
yeah, yeah.
And there's capitalists, people that will take advantage,
Mm.
opportunists, right?
Yeah.
Go-getters, I would say. um, so what's the problem with people taking a free gift every now and then, James? There's nothing wrong with gifts. You've been around on Christmas. Come on, you know maybe she had a hard week. Maybe that $50 Starbucks, maybe that's needed. You don't know how much. You don't know how much that means to her.
Oh my goodness.
God,
I mean, I understand that, it's nice to receive gifts, of course, just
of
because you
course,
exist, just
of
because you exist,
course.
And yeah, I mean, obviously the guy's attracted to her, and she's had her share of admirers that are willing to, you know, um, accommodate her. I'm going to say accommodate. And and yeah, I mean, she's admitted even to me that things have gotten a little tighter with the inflation and the spiraling inflation. What's been happening the last year and a half.
What's wrong
She
with a
is a
free
single
meal
parent.
nowadays, James? What's wrong with a
Yeah,
free meal?
yeah. So it is.
Biden's
It's wrong.
Biden's in
Uh,
there. He's taken. Like, I can't get a free meal now, James. Come on. In this economy, you're gonna you're
yeah.
gonna be an anti-gift in this economy?
But yeah, I just my whole thing is just it's like misleading the guy, and it's like,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, and so yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, think about let's say I have a niece, or let's say I have a daughter, I wouldn't want her taking money from some guy that
No.
that yes interested in her romantically, and she has zero interest. She will never have any interest, but I'll take your gifts. Yeah, it's like,
I
come
don't
on.
know. I used to be on another side of this. I used to think, yeah, no, the world's tough. Things are hard. Well,
Yeah,
if you got the tools, if you have the assets to receive gifts like that, by all means, go use them. Make
yeah,
something of
yeah.
yourself later on. But you know, um, but yeah, I don't. It's definitely a thing of like, I not self-respect, but just I guess a
Yeah.
moral code, like you said, a moral standard,
Yeah,
right? That whole
human
thing.
dignity. Absolutely, absolutely,
But what
absolutely.
about this guy? You said he has another girlfriend already, but he's sending gifts to this lady that we're talking about. So, is the problem that she's just accepting gifts in general from anyone who's interested, or just from a guy who already has previous engagements and knowing that you won't be with that person?
I think that has a little bit more to do with it. And the issue I have is that I'm convinced that God has designed this universe to, a lot of people go into the idea of karma. Now we're Christians, so I don't really entertain the karma concept because that's a Hindu practice. That's a Hindu concept. But we do understand a biblical concept of the law of sowing and reaping.
Yeah.
And reaping, yeah. And so obviously, if you're investing in a company, and you're putting your all into it, yeah, there's a possibility that, yeah, you may be considered for, a position that, you may not have anticipated, because the company has seen that, you are diligent, you are consistent, you are reliable, I mean, there's a lot of companies where, somebody was a janitor once upon a time and now they're the CEO or whatever else,
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that.
yeah, yeah, which I have no idea how that takes place. But there's situations where that's happened. The person was present. The person demonstrated that they can be trusted, that they were knowledgeable or willing to learn. And so when it comes to this sort of thing, I always feel like, especially like for example, you're reading like through the Old Testament, so that um, you know Israel, ancient Israel, sometimes they can decide that they want to, I don't know, mock God or do something against what He desires, and later on, it doesn't even have to be immediate. Sometimes later down the line, there's a consequence because of that sin, because
Oh
of that
yeah.
practice. Yeah, it comes back later. It's almost like planting a seed and blooming at the most inconvenient time. It's like,
Yeah.
bloom that. And yeah, I don't know, like for example, if you're at David yet, where he's
Oh
king
yeah,
and
no, I'm all about David right now. I want to talk to you about it because his thing is not almost done, but a lot's happened. Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
but yeah, but it's interesting how in his recklessness, there are times when he just kind of took advantage of opportunities, And just from that one thing, multiple issues from like a variety of other situations took place just from that one thing.
Yep.
Just from that one thing. You
Plagues,
know?
even biblical
Yeah,
plagues for
yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah. And so but I'm really big on whether you're a Christian or not, God will correct you. There is this law is already set. So I don't know. I just think of it's one thing when you have a girlfriend or boyfriend and this is your partner and they're saying, well, hey, sweetheart, I know that you're having a hard time.
Yeah.
I put some money aside for you because I know that you're trying to pull through with your car notes or you're pull through with your debt or your loans. Here you
Yeah.
go. This is a gift for you. Versus somebody that oh, I really hope Tim really likes me, and maybe if I give him $500, it's like,
Oh
come on,
no.
you
I
know what I'm
think
saying? So,
well, first of all, you've heard the term of like everybody's got a number, right? You say, oh, it's
yeah,
not for sale. What's the number? Let's
yeah,
skip
you're
all
right.
this negotiation.
What's the
Pull
number?
out the
Yeah,
checkbook. What's the
yeah.
number,
What's
right? So, and that goes for like buying, selling things. That goes for relationships, and a lot of times I want to ask ladies, what's your number? How much would a guy have to invest? Just strictly financial terms. I'm taking an accounting class. Let's just pull up a financial statement and give me the accounts receivable. How much do you need, right? How many accounts receivable you need to make this thing happen, right? Like for instance, for me and Julie, my wife, I mean, it was just a couple of, I'd say maybe like $20 of dollar ice creams throughout our 4 years of high school, right? I just like, oh, I got it, babe. Don't worry. I just,
I'll take care of that.
yeah, yeah. It's not that hard, fellas. You don't gotta break the bank to get a wife. No.
I
But
can
yeah,
see you writing a book. I can see you like that's the title of your book.
$20 to marriage. Oh man.
I
Yeah,
love
how
it.
to do it without a shotgun wedding.
I'm telling you, man. There you go.
There's a lot of topics in this one though that are interesting. A lot of different flavors of it, like you said, with it's not just about like the cheating thing, right? But just having a price tag, and whether you think so or not, it's gonna affect how most people think, right? Even if you try to like not accept a bunch of gifts, if someone's like spending a bunch of money on you, it needs to be addressed positively or negatively.
Yeah. Yes.
Like you need to just make it known like I'm not for sale, right? If that's something, or maybe the person is just overly generous and really does care for you, but just go about it showing that a different way, right? And talk to the person and
Mhm.
work that out.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought what was interesting, what you were talking about earlier, you were saying that the women can just, I guess, get gifts, right? And how it's not a familiar feeling. I was writing something about this a while ago, or well, a couple of days
Oh,
back.
really?
Well, yeah, just
Mhm.
talking about how women and men are just different, and how men have to earn love from the world, but women are just loved, right? Out the gate for just their presence, right?
Just existing.
Yeah, yeah.
Just,
Their
just exist.
beauty speaks for itself, quite literally, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Where
yeah.
on the opposite hand, like men literally you have to earn love. You have to like provide value to society. You have to produce something to be loved and valued. Typically, like to find a companion or to, just be acknowledged, right? Where any
Mm.
woman can kind of go out and any guy will want to be with her, right? Even
Mm.
the ugliest lady, like at some point, someone down the line will want to be with her, right? Whereas the man has to be bring much more value to the table to be seen as an attractive mate, and that's kind of the difference between like people say, oh, it's a double standard. When like people are more upset over a woman being promiscuous than a man, but it's
Right.
because like the men like work a lot harder to get a partner, whereas the woman can go to anybody. She has the key to the kingdom and she can give it to anyone who she deems fit, right?
I like that metaphor. Yeah.
It's
Makes it
just
very easy to understand.
yeah, yeah, it's one of our natural dichotomies, and I think it's not a bad thing. We have our what we're good at and what we're bad at, and it's just the way God made us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's interesting how that plays a role into like just taking and accepting gifts, right? I mean,
Yeah.
plenty, and we
Yeah.
talked about this last time. How it would be a whole huge conversation of like being a gentleman, respecting women, but not being a simp, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
these guys, these whales of society that will just shill out money for any kind of attention, for just a crumb of attention, right? Please, they'll just like pay out the wazoo for it, or give them all sorts of gifts and different romantic gestures and everything. Basically, I think just don't be shallow. Don't let that like determine who you're gonna hang out with, who you're gonna be with.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it depends on your worldview, how nefarious you want to get with it. You want to dip your toes a little bit more. Maybe you're dipping your foot in instead of just a toe, right? Like I've had a hard life. Why not just let me get this?
Well, yeah.
Let me get this free car. Let me.
This is compensation. This
Yeah,
is
I've been through a lot.
yeah, I deserve this.
Yes, yes. Let me get the car, and then I'll break it off with him. We'll
Yeah,
set it straight.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. You use that because I always think it's interesting how it really goes into like the kind of almost like the stripper like slash OnlyFans kind of thing.
yeah,
There are a lot of ladies that they're dealing with debt, they're dealing with issues, they're dealing with, and some of them they're not thinking of like a long term type of thing in that. They're thinking, okay, you know what, I'll do it for a year or two, get a few thousands of dollars. Let me just kind of
yeah.
take care of some things, and then I'll get rid of that. And it's almost like, well, once you start,
There's no getting rid of that. Like it's
yeah,
out there.
yeah, yeah, and it becomes your identity, and it's you, and it's your life, and it starts dominating, and and the thing is, yeah, you're gonna get paid for, you know, uh, doing whatever it is you're doing, but it does come with a cost. You're not gonna
Yeah,
find somebody who take you seriously if they have respect for themselves. They just won't.
yeah.
They just won't. And yeah, no one ever talks about that. One lady actually I seen on a video actually on YouTube. She was saying that one of the issues that she has had with her OnlyFans account is guys recording, and I guess they're recording her material and then distributing it to
Redistributing
others.
it.
Yeah, 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 and they're like making money from her videos, and it's sad because I seen one lady. I think she did something kind of mild, and I stumbled onto it, but because somebody actually brought up, yeah, yeah, you stumbled onto it,
How you stumbling, James? Where you stumbling to?
yeah, but there was the guy I think talking about this lady. So I actually found this video on YouTube,
Yeah,
and yeah, ladies, showing her body and stuff like that. And it's not like it's not like explicit or anything. But yeah, but I actually seen the real woman of this video like comment like, "Hey, whoever you are, like I didn't give you permission to use this," and I just thought to myself, man, I wonder how often this happens because
yeah.
it's like, what are you gonna do?
Well, we've talked about that happening with just regular Instagram profiles that aren't even trying to be
Yeah.
promiscuous. Just regular, you know, girls and everything, attractive girls. They just get their profiles taken and like, uh, there's a new profile made with a link under the guise that
Oh
something
yeah.
explicit will happen, but it's not.
Yeah.
So it's really
So
kind of crazy how that's all happening now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I was aware that this happened, but I think as I started to, become more, frequent and consistent on social media, it started happening to some of my attractive female friends. They would just like post like this false account, and they would like tell everybody, "Hey, can you report this? Like
Yeah.
somebody made an account," and I was like, "Wow, this is really happening. This is actually happening. Like,
Yep.
wow, you know." Crazy, man. They'll just get two or three of their photos and just make an account and just go from there.
Yeah, and it's just the ease of access for all this stuff and growing up in the internet age and everything, it's just
Oh, I
so
have
much
no.
different. And like you said, we talked about last time how these problems are at my doorstep now because I have a daughter and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Trying to
yeah.
raise them without growing up with the influence of I have to be online, I have to be like for just the attention seeking, right? Because it's
Hmm.
like you didn't get enough. I mean, I don't want to talk for anybody, but a lot of times, like these things stem from like daddy issues, right? And it's
Yeah.
the same thing for toxic relationships. You're just craving attention from anybody, and so you'll do whatever you have to do to get it, and then those people don't deserve it, right? So much
Mm.
of society's problems come from like self love and like lack of like a
Yeah.
fatherly love in the home. But
Yeah, no, no, you're so right. You're really hitting like the nail with the hammer on that one because a lot of these issues and even like when it comes to like the black community or just ladies in general, like often when they are promiscuous or often when they're just jumping from partner to partner, you ask them, well, what is your relationship with your father? And it's usually, oh, he kicked me out, or oh, he wasn't really there for me, or oh, he just ran out, like I never knew him, or oh, he
Yeah.
rejected me. Like it's always, you know, and yeah, unfortunately, I know ladies, you know, unfortunately, the lady that I mentioned today, and even one of our last videos, yeah, they both had serious father issues, and yeah, and when I say serious, I mean like one father went as far as to actually commit suicide. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, man. So you know, and the other just kind of really neglected his responsibilities altogether. You know, so it's really like it's crazy how it does come from that. Just that
Yeah.
alone will dismantle an entire family. Just that alone.
And then having that like kind of seed and that need for approval combined with like the instant gratification of social media
Oh,
and all the whole internet world and all the temptation that can come from it, because not even like you want to give up or parts of your body or whatever like that. That's probably the wrong way to say it over the internet, but just seeing how successful and lucrative it is for people that do, right? And it's like the
oh yeah,
whole prostitution industry's been around since the Stone Age, and now it's
pretty
just
much.
like streamlined. It's so, and that's the same thing with like hookup culture. All the internet's great and everything, but it's like increasing these vices like tenfold, like a thousandfold, right?
Oh,
Because
oh
of
yeah, absolutely,
instant
absolutely.
gratification, and you can just like click a button and just the world is your
Yeah,
oyster, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so seeing that and how it's like so profitable and how like it's just a combination of like all this stuff, like a lack of self-love, and then times are hard, right? This hustle culture, you need to do your own thing and
Oh,
be
yeah.
right. And it's like just don't never what's it called, never let go of your self-respect, right? Don't, I forget the proper term, but don't diminish your self-value for that, right? Don't lower yourself to that. Like you have to have like the whole thing we talk about all the time, the moral standard, right? To live your life
Yes.
by, like it's the guideline, just to always refer back to in a cloudy, mucky situation. And what's interesting, and it always kind of comes back to this like religious undertone, but all the lessons I learned in my life through football and everything, because I wasn't devoutly religious for so much of my life. But and I thought I learned all these lessons on my own, but I realized like reading the Bible, there's actual biblical references to current like things going on and current problems and different emotions and just states of being that you might be going through. All that stuff it happened, like it's documented, right? And there's like a guide for it. It's all
Yeah,
relevant. I thought like none of the Old
absolutely.
Testament was pretty much, but it really all does kind of go back to it when you actually open and read the text.
Yes,
So
yes.
that was super interesting to me finding that out. How
Mm.
all these kind of messages and moral conundrums aren't just we're not special because we're living with the
Yeah,
internet, right?
yes, yes.
It's kind
No,
of the human
it's
struggle.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, no, I love the fact that you're making reference to, and this is something that, um, that's written in, I believe it's the not the Song of Solomon, but Solomon wrote this concept in one of his books in the Bible in the Old Testament. I don't know if you're there yet, um, but he essentially says that there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
nothing new under the sun. Yeah. And it's so fascinating how, some of us we think, oh man, racism and the racial divide and all this stuff. But you look at the issues with how some of these cultures, especially in the first century with the Greco-Roman world, how they looked at Jewish people. They looked at them like, oh, you little, dirty Jew and whatever, and But it's
yeah,
always been that. It's always been that. It's always been, So yeah, it's so funny because before we got on, I was listening to Candace Owens talking to Joe Rogan about some issues and stuff like that on YouTube, just a clip or something. And yeah, I think he did kind of. I guess he was optimistic. He was thinking, well, he was thinking that eventually, as we progress in our society, racism can eventually be eliminated. And
yeah,
she, although she didn't really have a very strong biblical stance, she was just saying like, no, no, like there's always going to be an issue. There's
yeah.
always going to be, and I would argue, yes, and it's their sinful nature that we unfortunately inherited. You know,
Yeah, it's that tribalism and then like growing up a certain way, not being exposed to anything else, and then seeing it only takes like one experience, right? One negative experience to like base it the rest of your life. So it's like people need, yeah, there's a bunch that can go into that for sure.
yeah, yeah, no, seriously, yeah, it's wild, man. Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate the the sinful nature of mankind, and that's something
Yeah,
that a lot of us in the reformed community we really emphasize. It's not something that we pass over to us. This is the source of why evil is here.
yeah,
Yeah, we have free will, but the extent is to do whatever it is we want. Like we're not going to use our free will to sacrifice for our neighbor all the time. We may do it occasionally with the people that we deem worthy, but yeah, yeah. So it's we're like almost imprisoned in this nature, and yeah, it's just unless God frees us from that, nothing happens.
yeah. All these problems, they're just really like rooted in old like human nature, right? It's like the
Yeah,
veneer of the internet and the future times. It's just it's a shade. It's not real, right? It's just
yeah,
something to
yeah.
distract you and make it seem separate you from the Bible or from history and everything, but it's not. It's really all connected once you kind of see through that.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
There is some other stuff before we get off of this about the whole relationships and talking about how,
Hmm.
you know, this it's just historically, right? Like women have a tendency, like I said, come with innate value, and there's a lot of people that will like, oh, buy them a drink, right? It's the whole like concept of like women not having to pay for their drinks or anything, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So going with that, so some recent controversy. I don't know if you heard about the Tinder Swindler.
Yes, I actually watched it very almost the week it came out.
I didn't
Yeah.
watch like the documentary, but I heard a lot about it and everything, and everyone's kind of all upset
Yeah,
at this guy.
actually, I would actually recommend you
Okay, all
watch
right,
it. Yeah,
maybe it's worth a
that's,
watch.
yeah,
But
please.
well, if you've seen it, you can go ahead and kind of give a brief synopsis of the situation. Probably better than I could, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. To be honest with you, it's not really complicated.
it
A
didn't seem like
gentleman,
it.
yeah, yeah. He adopted the philosophy of a con artist. He realized that a lot of ladies like to be bedazzled with money and riches and things like that. So he would convince one lady, I guess, to fall in love, and he would use all these resources that I guess he acquired from somebody else that he stole from, and he would use this lavish lifestyle to win over the heart of someone else. And his I guess approach would be to wine and dine a lady initially with impressing them with maybe I don't know, getting picked up in a nice car or eating at the best restaurants, and being flown to another city in another country. And so he would just kind of make sure every lady that he targeted experienced that bedazzlement. And then after he allowed them to get back home, I don't know, maybe for certain people he had a certain time that he uh, decided that he would go through some type of issue in which he didn't have access to his money, he didn't have access to his accounts. Can you
Yeah,
get a temporary loan? I love you, sweetheart. And because these women were convinced this guy obviously has money, they're like, oh, okay, well, of course, because I know that you can pay it back. But he altered his identity depending on the woman that he was speaking up to. And so, yeah, yeah. So he basically had this routine where he was always getting money from some new lady and he was disappearing on them and going to the next woman like a parasite. And
yeah.
so, yeah, but you realize he did it for years and he did it for a while and he got better at it.
He was
He got better.
successful at it. Yeah,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So it's really sad because um, you see that a lot of the ladies that he won over, they basically were looking for the wine and dine life. They wanted to live that Disney princess life. So it didn't matter what part of um, where they were in their life. I don't know. He seemed to always find the ladies that were susceptible to that. They wanted that. Like I guess he could see. Um, I guess the traits of a woman that would be a good target.
yeah.
You know, yeah, if they were the ones impressed by that lifestyle, they were the one that he was going to target. So, but he did a very good job, unfortunately.
Yeah. What I heard was that these ladies were people that were kind of looking to settle down, to be taken care of, right? They're in like their 40s, like late 30s, right? And
Something like that.
they
Yeah,
have
something
something of
like that.
themselves, right? They have money to give, right? They're not just completely dependent, but they are looking to like be with someone the rest of it, right? And be taken care of. And so that's kind of how he got them to those targets that had money to give him money for the next swindle, right?
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, that whole scenario was just like interesting. I thought it was funny, and everyone kind of took it that way for a while, from the men community at least, because it's like women have been
Oh,
doing
oh
that for
yeah. Oh,
years.
for us, it's a joke.
Yeah,
It's an absolute joke. It's like, how can you fall for this?
yeah,
Like it's obvious what he's doing. It's but yeah, yeah. It's and it's interesting because some of the ladies that were victim to this, they mentioned that when they realized that they wanted to catch this guy, but they had to expose all their texts and their stories and to the world. And so they realized like people were going to insult their intelligence, and people did.
yeah.
People had comments you got to be stupid to think that this guy's going to be, he's supposed to be some prince of some diamond company, and
Yeah.
then he all of a sudden doesn't have money, and you're going to give him so yeah, there's a lot of people that really got
It's
on him.
it's a different scenario when you're like vulnerable and in love or whatever, right? But that's the
Yeah,
whole, like, you
but
just
he
gotta.
always waited. But he always waited for that.
Yeah,
He waited for them to get into that in love, and then he did. You
yeah.
know,
And
yeah,
that's the kind of the whole point of what we're saying is like just kind of have some self-decency, some self-respect. Just don't succumb to the flashiness of gifts and everything, you know.
thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank thank you. Exactly, yeah, man. It's I don't know, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if let's say I don't know, I what I'm doing online and maybe writing a book or did something and I did very well for myself. Absolutely, if I'm connecting with my, a lady that I'm marrying, and yeah, I would love for her to have everything that she needs and stuff like that. But yeah, I think wouldn't be wise for her to just say, "Oh, okay, James has money now. Let me just submit my entire life to him." I think I would like somebody who says, "Hey, let me see his character. Let me see his integrity.
Yeah.
Let me see what type of mindset does he have." You know, yes, that's a nice car. He has the new Tesla, whatever. Like, yeah, it's cool, but what type of man is he? Is he someone that I want to actually, impregnate me and I want to marry and wake up to for the rest of my life? So
Yeah.
I think it's wise for ladies to consider those things.
I mean, ultimately, I don't feel too bad because it was all on Tinder, right? It's like, what do you expect? You're trying to get a long-term relationship out of that. Should have
Yeah,
been on Christian Mingle. They would have got you right. They would have set you up good. No, no, I'm just kidding. We're not
yeah.
sponsored. But
Well,
no, but that's kind of the whole thing too. Is like the hookup culture. You know, it's not really a productive one. It's not. It's just kind of self-depreciating and just I kind of like I don't know. It's just bad for society overall. You know,
agreed,
the
agreed,
whole instant
agreed.
gratification and just we're acting like animals out there. Just just like what's it called, acquiring just base needs, not thinking about the emotional part, having friends with benefits or anything. That's even a concept, right? That you can fool yourself into thinking there won't be an emotional attachment there. Someone's gonna get hurt, right? And if it's not
Absolutely.
you or it's not her, it's gonna be the
Yes.
possibility of some kids later on, right?
Correct.
Like that's
Correct.
the biggest thing too. We talked about like a while back about you're not living up to the responsibility of those kids if you're like acting this way. You're not giving them the best shot at success and of a loving household if you're just taking these chances, right?
Mm, mm, mm.
Just date
Yeah, no,
intentionally, please. We've been saying it forever. Date intentionally.
yeah, yeah. And honestly, I mean, of course, I don't want to sound like, somebody that is biased when it comes to like my perception of men and women, but I will say that when it comes to like the friends with benefits or even just the hookup culture, women lose at that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, yeah. Us guys, we're in such a different position than women. Like even I don't know. Let's say you have two people that are I don't know. Let's say for example, two people for I don't know 10 years. They are just hooking up and they don't live with each other. They're just playing around. And the guy decides, okay, I actually want to get serious, so I'm not going to deal with the woman I've already had access to all this 10 years. I'm going to go find somebody younger or somebody else. And so, as a guy, let's say he has his life fairly together, financially as well. Yeah, he that those doors are open for him. He can he
Yeah.
can he can throw that old life away, and and for ladies, the dynamic is different. Now this lady is 10 years older. She's been wasting her time with this guy. It's just different. The dynamic is different, and I think ideally, it's good for a lady to secure a relationship early on. I don't know. It's just and I don't know how if we've addressed too much of the red pill movement on this show, but But there's a lot with that that's being taught to men. So I even know some guys that identify as Christians and they adopt that philosophy as well. So if a woman has a child, if a woman's a certain age, if she, um, uh, she's a certain weight, to them, her SMV goes down.
Oh no.
Sexual market value. That's
Yeah.
their philosophy. Yeah. And so I think ladies need to be aware that there are some guys that will entertain themselves with you, but they're not going to take you seriously. They're not going to take you seriously. They will never marry you. They'll have fun with you. But, and I think ladies have to understand when it comes to that hookup stuff, women lose automatically.
Yeah.
Automatically.
No, that's a really good point you bring up, and we're kind of like joking of the matter because that's like how people see it, like the whole accountant fiscal quarter sheet, right? Like
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
sexual
yeah.
market value. That's a great point too. There's people that actually take that seriously though, right? And I was never
Yeah.
red pilled or anything, but I've talked to like my other guy friends, and they would like give me crap because I was like not anti-feminist, but just like I don't know, just I was pointing out all these things of that about women and society and everything, right? And I could have definitely, maybe gone down one of those paths, but it's not healthy. It's not right.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's give and take, right?
There you go.
Don't be. It's just like it's kind of pathetic the whole red pill thing where people like they're just not like just be a man about it. Like take what we are given to accept and just be okay with it, right? You're
Yeah.
complaining about something that like doesn't matter. You can't change, and you're making a big old deal out of it. But it's like I said, there's good things and bad things about both, right? That's our dichotomy of men and women. It's just ever present
Yeah.
in nature.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. We're bringing this up because I talk about this, this idea, with a lot of my friends that there are pros and cons. There is
Yeah.
this, yeah, like for example, if there's a lady, I don't know, my age, my size, and she's, I don't know, just in the middle of I don't know, let's say her car broke down and it's midnight, and she has, I don't know, she's by herself. There's a chance that somebody's going to stop and pick her up.
Yeah.
They're going to pick her up. Somebody. It may even be possibly an hour, versus me, and I'm stranded. You know, I may, be spending the night in the car. And but I'm aware of that. I'm a guy, my size, like, I don't know. There's different, people are just thinking, hey, this is a hitchhiker, and he's a guy. Whoa, do I want to risk that?
But
And
then again, I will. You can finish.
uh, yeah, well, but I was gonna say, like, going back to the lady, let's say the pretty lady, she's in her 22, she's really attractive. Yeah, she can practically leave her house without her ID or money or or anything, and she could have a nice night. She'll have somebody pay for her meal. She'll be able to get into the club. She'll be able to do all these different things and enjoy an entire night without even opening her wallet or purse or anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. There's ladies that benefit from that, and yeah. So it's So I'm just saying, there's pros and cons, and I'm
There's
aware of that.
also serial killers that benefit from ladies not bringing their ID or money or anything, their pepper spray or anything, right? Because that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, you're gonna stay the night there, and you won't get picked up because you're a guy, but also as a woman, you will get picked up, right? So you gotta kind of be on the eye out of like,
Well, yeah,
those
yeah,
too eager to pick you up.
yeah. No, it's true, and it's so interesting how I think about the idea of how much the dynamic changes when you have a woman who even is just trying to get her car fixed, going to the mechanic versus a woman stepping out of the car and her husband steps out of the car as well.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different. It's the same thing with a woman. I don't know, walking her dog in the park in the evening by herself versus woman walking in the park and her husband is with her. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Everyone knows, like, oh, okay, if I wanted to mess with her, I'd have to deal with the husband. I'd have to deal with him first, and that's like a deterrent. It's like, I don't think so.
And
You
that's
know,
that's just our roles. Like we're there to protect, right? And then women are,
preach it, brother, preach it.
yeah, like that whole thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
definitely important. Gender roles and all that stuff.
yeah, man. Yeah, I like that. I like that discussion. I feel like we're gonna
So,
have to build on that in some future episodes.
well,
That was some good stuff.
yeah, and then going back to like the whole
Mm.
gentleman and respectful but not a simp thing, right? Just as on our charge, we can get into that a little bit more about just, and it goes to the same thing about like getting gifts and everything. Like don't be one of those whales, right? Like Just
I never knew that was
a term.
that was the name, the whales thing. I knew
Well,
the simp, I knew
it's
the
it's
nice
more
guy.
so, and Wales is like more of a microtransaction term. You're familiar with microtransactions, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
so video games will have these items that they have in game that either give you a cosmetic boost or like sometimes an actual you will get better in the game for having these, and you have to pay to get them, right? So a lot of people don't like that because it tips the balance, and not everyone wants to pay more than the full price for the game that they already paid.
Mm.
But there are
Yeah.
people with enough resources and not enough
Yeah, they
care.
can.
Well, they'll spend all the money, and so it's profitable enough for a company to have these systems that majority of people hate just because the one person will spend like thousands and thousands of dollars on it. So
Funny.
yeah, it's
Funny.
crazy, but there's whales in society, and so taking that concept, moving it to relationships, there's people that will just spout all kinds of money, and that just attracts people in general because our society is very devalued, and we're so low that we'll just do anything for money, right?
I
Um,
yeah, I will say I've known my share of guys, and I don't think I've ever transitioned to that. Maybe I have. I do have one lady in particular I know, and I don't know, maybe I've already made reference to this, and I think I did, but yeah, it was like over 10 years ago, but I met her online. I thought she was real cool, and we would always go to a restaurant and then maybe to the theater, or maybe theater first and then a restaurant. But I noticed that that was always the routine, and as I started to kind of reflect on it, back on it, I was like, wow, she actually kind of guided for us to always hit a nice, cool place, and a nice theater. And I'm not always like a typical theater. Sometimes it was one of those fancy theaters where, you can press a little button and a waiter will come and say, oh, hey,
oh wow,
you guys want any appetizers?
she got you
And
for
they'll say,
that.
and I say, are you guys enjoying the movie? And and it's like, yeah, I think we'll take some water and did you want a burger? Yeah, so I realized like, she was really enjoying herself, with what I was, willing to invest because I thought, oh, this lady likes me, so I'm willing to put this money, invest this, in our relationship. But yeah, I realized reflecting, looking back, like, yeah, she was just enjoying the opportunity of just some guy that was, willing to do that. Now the bad side of this is, I guess she didn't think long term about this. So it's been 10 plus years. And now she's having a hard time finding somebody taking her seriously. She's older now. She doesn't have a lot of those attributes that are very feminine, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, and I've reached out, I've actually met up with her, on occasion. And yeah, it's just interesting to see since then she hasn't really moved towards anything actually because that was her end game is just guys treating her, and now it's like, well, now nobody really cares for and then what's interesting is that she lives almost like an hour out from LA, so a lot of the people that she knew from LA, like, they're not about to drive in to go see her, they don't
Yeah.
care, yeah, so it's just yeah, this is very interesting. But yeah, I do remember there was a time when I was open to kind of trying to over accommodate with money and stuff like that. I never did, crazy amounts of money. I didn't have that, but yeah, it was just interesting to see, even for my own transition, because I had a buddy of mine that was always, I think he was like sort of like pre red pill, and he was always in my ear for years talking to me like, hey man, she's using you, don't do, and so I started. It influenced me a little bit, and I even almost slipped into the red pill thing myself. To be honest with
Well,
you, I had a
because it's
situation.
just those topics are real in society. There are women that'll do that. That'll just use people and
Yeah.
don't have any feeling towards like the guy about
Yes.
it, right? But it's
Yeah.
also like I feel like that's just out of your control. There are people that are going to do that. So what can you control? You can control not being a simp about it and not
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being a sucker and giving yourself up to that, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
hard with the infatuation drug, right? Because
Oh,
it's like
I'm
it's
telling you,
such a
man.
high,
Oh, it's the worst.
the
It's the
whole
worst.
butterflies and everything. Yeah,
Oh,
I
the
get you.
worst, man. The
Um,
worst.
but I think it's better spent, like I said, and we talk about this all the time about like when you date intentionally and getting those foundational things like within the first couple dates, figuring out what your guys' goals are and where you're headed with this. Get that out, put it on the table, as James would say, and then let the relationship flourish or diminish after that, right?
There you go.
Um,
Yeah.
I think when you take the time to do that, you leave yourself a lot more protected against this kind of nonsense, right? And it's okay to do these things for someone that is a worthy investment, that is interested in a relationship, a long-term
Right.
relationship, right? I talk about it all the time. Like there would be a lot less divorce if people would just be more open to serving their wife, right? Just like
Oh yeah.
being open
Oh
to
yeah.
her needs and everything, and being proactive about it, right? I
Mm,
always make sure my wife's like coffee machine's like washed and everything, so that she has it the next day. It's just something. It's little things
mm,
like that that'll just build over
mm.
time, and that's kind of where the love grows, you know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So there is a
Love that.
place for
Love that.
that. It's servitude, and we are called to do it. But if you're
Yes.
just giving that up for anybody, you know, you're in the
Yeah.
wrong, and you need to kind of prioritize and see where you're at, you know.
I love that you made reference to that, Tim. This same lady, years after, we went through this phase, and we were just kind of reconnecting as friends and stuff like that. And at that point, I wasn't about to drive out to her anymore. Like
Yeah,
at that time, like I've already influenced by my buddy, and he's
$5
already
a
he
gallon,
has
she can catch the bus.
but and maybe this is interesting. This kind of goes into what we were talking about a little earlier, or even right now. Is I remember, because everyone knows that I admire ladies with nice feet, nice hands, and take care of the skin, all that stuff. I love that. When a woman embraces that side of just taking care of herself. So this lady, she was one of those people that she would go
Yeah.
to salons and stuff like that every 2 weeks or so, and so she actually tried to convince me the best way she could, that maybe it would be a good idea to invest in, supporting her to get to the salon because I could still appreciate those things because I am her friend and stuff like that. She still was trying to kind of
How
loop.
genuine was that though? Like, was it the joke? Was it like,
I knew. I'll put it this way. I do think that she liked the attention that I probably would have given her. I was like, oh, hey, I love your hands. I love your feet. I love, but I think that also she, was like, hey, if I can get a sucker to pay for this, you just
yeah,
gotta pay for it, Yeah. So I very kindly, and it's so funny because it was the first time I ever really said something like this out loud, and maybe this is something that we can expand on as well. I told her that um, when a man and a woman are married, everything that the man has actually belongs to that woman and vice versa. They have full benefits of not only one another's items, but even their bodies, according to the
yeah.
Bible. According to I said, even
How
if a man,
beautiful.
right, and it's just one flesh. It's not even like two people. It's one
Yeah,
flesh. But I even told her that there are actually benefits as well when you're engaged to this person because you're in the verge of marrying them. There are things that you have access to, benefits of all sorts of things, resources, their attention. And I said, even when you're seriously dating somebody, you have access to certain benefits that this person is willing to invest and give you and not other people. It's different. The relationships are different. But I said, when you're just someone's friend, that's different.
yeah.
You don't have access to those same benefits.
You friend zoned her on the spot.
And I was trying to be real kind, but I was trying to let her know, like, I know that she met me when I was a little foolish in my 20s, but I wasn't that same guy
Yeah,
anymore.
that
That
must have
that
been like,
that time, yeah, yeah, but that time had passed. That time had passed, and so it's just and yeah, and I would love to actually we don't have to address it in this episode, but I would love to address men and women, especially ladies that in the long term, like when they kind of overlook those opportunities, like what happens to them? What happens?
yeah.
What happens after a certain time, and they still haven't learned those attributes and displaying those characteristics that actually attract men. Like what happens to them?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's like a little.
Okay.
It's what's it called? What's the term? Like, not having your cake and eating it too. It's basically just finding delight in their suffering, right? Like I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I
yeah,
think we
yeah.
we got to resist that temptation to get like, oh, see, it didn't work out for you. See, you
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
like
That's definitely red pill right there. That's red pill.
because it's definitely like it's an innate urge, like when you give someone advice or you or something, whatever happens, right, and then they go opposite and then it doesn't work out for them. that
Oh, Jen.
I told you
Yeah,
so, right? You have to
yeah.
avoid that I told you so kind of mentality and just kind of let the situation happen and just be okay with that, right? Let them go on and live their life, learn their lesson. You don't got to check in on them later and like
Mhm.
prove it to yourself, because even I'm learning this whole thing, it's not just what you outwardly do but your mind, your mental, right? You're indulging in all
Absolutely.
that too. That affects your character and everything, right? So
Agreed.
let's strive
Agreed.
to be like stronger than that, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
um
Mhm.
that's something that I, a couple of years back, I just kind of, someone said something, I think, about how it affects kids, or like if, because everyone can relate to someone or one of their parents maybe even saying I told you so, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah. So can
there's
I.
there's such like a power trip that goes on in parenting so often that's not like acknowledged or recognized, where
Mhm.
it's like, you need to do this because I said so. You need to do this because it's my house under my roof, right? And there's a place for that where like honor your father and mother, but it's also like it's very like humans are very susceptible to power trip, right? Where they just disregard, like, no, this is another human you're talking to, right? Show some
Yeah.
respect, where it's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm just above you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think kind of setting up some mental defenses so that we don't get to that point, right? The
Yeah. I
pointing
agree.
fingers, I
I
told you
agree.
so. So that's just
Mhm.
eerily what it sounds like. So I wouldn't suggest doing that too
Yeah.
thoroughly, but
Yeah. I'm in a position where I have two nieces, Tim, and I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but um, when they were younger, I used to take them out on mock dates.
yeah,
I would actually um, arrange to pick them up. We would go to a movie theater, and then maybe we would go to dinner after it and talk about the movie. And my whole thing was I wanted to prepare them to actually encounter a gentleman. I wanted to
yeah,
prepare them for these are the attributes of a gentleman. This is what you look for when you are going to meet somebody that is actually somebody that's worth investing in. This is what they're going to do. They're going to take care of the bill. They're going to make sure, um, you know, accommodate you. They're going to open the door for you. They're going to do just those little things for you. And these are the things you want to look for. And so, um, they're older now. They've already ventured out into their lives, but I find that I still have that. I still have that. And even for ladies that are older than me, I
yeah.
still desire for them to find that partnership. I still desire for them to find that whatever.
That's
And
good.
even when I have, yeah, yeah, and even when I'm bringing these topics up, for me, it's not, oh man, my friend's messing up, let's,
Yeah,
to me, it's like, no, 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 this is actually sabotaging you. This is
yeah.
actually sabotaging. This doesn't work for the 5, 10 years later thing. This doesn't work. Like you have to stop that now. You have to end this now. And so for me, it's a serious concern. It's a serious concern. It's a concern for my neighbors. It's a concern for my community. It's a concern for professing Christian women that are scraping the bottom of the barrel so they can find some greasy, slimy guy that they just assume, oh well, he owns a Bible, so I think he's a Christian. And no, no,
Yeah.
there's a standard. Yeah, so for me, it's a very I would say it's one of those important topics to me, like the relationships between men and women. To me, it's
Yeah.
really like it's something that I don't know. I just feel like it's one of the I mean you
It's
could
really
justify this.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The relationship between a man and a woman and the privilege of marriage and waking up to somebody that actually wants you next to them. Like they chose you. They chose you. And so yeah, it's just something that I'm very sensitive to. So for me, it's just like, man, I do desire this for even this lady I'm talking about. I want her to wake up and
Yeah.
have a husband that actually want to wake up, next to her. So it's something I take very seriously. I take some, and it's a
I
topic
can
that I'm
appreciate that. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, man, oh yeah, oh yeah. But it's something that but it spawned from my nieces. I used to take them on these mock dates, and sometimes I think to myself, I don't know if I should have done more. I didn't feel like their father was stepping in and doing anything, so I chose as their uncle to
Yeah.
step in. But yeah, but it's I don't know, it's something that I take very seriously. Like even when I was at your wedding day, and I was seeing you exchange vows with your wife. I'm just thinking like, man, yes, 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 yes. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
this is what God intended.
I
This is what God intended.
I
This.
appreciate
This
that.
is it. Yeah.
It was a fun
you know.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. But it's a very but yeah. But it does. but I feel like, I also want to acknowledge that there are some ladies that are not going about this the right way. They don't know how it feels to experience the security that your wife knows. They don't know what that is.
Yeah, yeah.
They're still thinking guys are losers and all that stuff. And
And like I said, the whole thing, it's like a cultural war, right? We're morally
yeah,
bankrupt and everything, and there's so
oh
much
yeah,
like just distraction and not intentional parenting being done in the home. Everyone's just kind of going through it and react
oh
parenting,
yeah,
not intentional parenting, you know? So I think we fix these problems we gotta like in the home, right? So I'm
yeah.
trying to like raise better men so that they treat women right, right? And yes, teach your daughters to identify the right ones in the meantime. But
Amen.
and it's never gonna happen because the original sin and fall of man. But just make sure that you're not contributing to that, right?
There you go.
Do the. I
There you
mean,
go.
your kids are gonna do what they're gonna do. You can't control them completely, but you can give them a pretty darn good shot with the right tools to maneuver the world. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
You really give them, and that's something the Bible addresses is just raising up a child. So as they get older, they'll always kind of go back to what it is that you taught them, that foundation. And so it really does work. It works.
Yeah.
It works when you talk to your little girls and you tell them, hey, one day you're going to be married to an amazing man, and if there's a guy that is honking outside, to take you out on a date, that's not going to be your husband. That's not going to be your husband. There's a guy that the only thing he wants to do is exchange uh, sleazy text messages about what are you wearing. That's not going to be your husband.
Yeah.
Unless he puts a ring on your finger and has respect, and honors the one and true God. Yeah, that's not going to be your husband. And be involved and stuff like that. And yeah, absolutely. But
And
yeah,
what's interesting too is, and I talked about this maybe a little bit before, maybe it was just on Twitter, but I heard from people that more experienced, right, longer term marriages and everything, and giving advice to young people dating. It's hard when you're a teenager because like you a lot of times the men don't they still have to build themselves, right? They can't really be the outward leader and the outward traits and everything. And yes, you can be a respectable young adult and you can be raised right and like everything can show that way. But a lot of times you won't have the entire meaning or intention behind it until you know yourself and you choose yourself to do it, right? So
mm,
just be wary. Like I wouldn't say because you know that's not going to be your husband. And I'm like I was mostly gentleman-like, but there's definitely one or two things in there that I was
oh,
doing right.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like so.
Of
Also
course.
respect, especially if you're that young. Just respect the
Mm,
time it takes to build something like that, right?
mm,
I
mm.
think there is something to be said about what he said actually is like don't even date someone as a teenager yet. Like just wait because they're all just like learning and they're fumbling and it's not a lot
Mhm,
of times going to
mhm,
work out.
mhm.
But just I think there's something to be said about growing together. That's what we did, and if you can get a good enough foundational base, like there's still that's a huge thing, right? I think you can as long as you have a general like we'll go north instead of south, east, or west, and then you can narrow down like okay this path instead of right. So
Yeah, yeah.
just try as much as you can get to the same going the same direction. I think that'll help you a lot.
Okay,
Dating
okay.
early.
Like
But really, the point of that is just to say that yeah, young people don't have it all figured out. They need time to build.
that.
So just be wary of that if you're a younger person dating, or if you're trying to date someone younger, that those traits might not be there all the way yet, right? And I
Mm,
was talking to my friend about his situation. He had to break up with his girlfriend recently, but she was just a
okay.
little
Mm,
immature, Um, I gave him all this advice and everything, but that's coming from a person like you're talking to someone. This is advice for someone that is of the same kind of maturity that can understand these reasonings and react and adjust behavior based on this because of this goal, right? But when
mm,
you're dealing with someone that's just not mature enough, they have to do more life experience or whatever. You're not going to get that message through. I was trying to stress to him that he's not the problem.
mm.
And it hurts when you love somebody, but
Of
you
course,
know
absolutely,
it's definitely
absolutely.
like look out for maturity when you're looking for these long-term good relationships. You got to be wary of that.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, one of the things I encourage, especially ladies, but guys as well, is like ask those questions. Like you don't have to ask them, right off the bat, but just ask them eventually. Like, well, what is your view on marriage? Do you think
Yeah.
it's necessary? Do you think, what is your perception of God? What is your perception of the Bible? What do you think the roles of a man and a woman are? Just ask. And sometimes you'll hear stuff and you'll know, oh, whoa, okay, check please.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and other times it's like, oh, okay, hey, I'd like to talk to this person a little bit more about this particular area, and I know that it's a very popular idea for some people in our today's culture to actually consider marriage, much later, 30s and 40s sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a time when, yeah, 18, 16, 20, that was pretty normal,
Yep.
and so even with that lack of maturity to some extent, there was still an understanding of the foundational pillars of.
You're right. You're right. And I think, back then things were a little different.
Yeah,
But even
definitely.
nowadays, some places in the world, 16 or 18, so there is
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah,
right?
true, yeah, very true, very
Um,
true.
yeah, we don't got to get into that. It's a whole other thing there. But, yeah, I forget where I was going with that. So we can just go on to this next thing. Before we get off on Simps, I did want to get your opinion on the whole, because you're familiar with like Twitch, right?
Twitch. This is the streaming service, right?
For video games, yeah, typically video games. But you can like
Yes,
watch
it's
people and
funny you
follow
said
people.
typically. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of
The
other
only thing
things going on there too.
yeah, I was gonna say that I know that its intention is for video games, but I just know that it's becoming more increasingly more popular with just pretty girls just taking just I guess video games is one thing that they're doing, but some of them are bouncing up and down in pools. Others are just
Oh yeah,
dancing around in outfits, and so it's just turned into something else.
yeah, and that's
So
kind of part of it. Is like that. That is again the whole being your own entrepreneur and get your body out there and make some money off of it, right? There's
there
many
you
avenues to it. You don't have to go all the way to OnlyFans. There's many like right different things,
go.
but
There you go.
because there are a lot of pathetic men out there that are just simps and that just
Yeah, yeah,
give
yeah.
that stuff up. That's just to the men out there. Like that's your time and that's your energy. Like that's your money, your resources, and then like that's your mental too. Like you're obsessing over someone you might never meet and who
Right.
will never give you more than the time of day. And it's their job to make you feel special and make you feel included. But your potential wife is out there somewhere, and you've
Yeah.
done nothing to try and find her. You know
Yes.
you're
Yes.
gonna be stuck like that for however long. So I think when you're so, and it's so easy to get like wrapped up in all this because there's, with the amount of the exposure to the internet gives us access to view millions of more faces than we were ever intended to, right? People were back in small
Yes.
villages, they never saw more than what, like 1,000 faces in their lifetimes.
There you go. There you go.
And now we see, I'd want to say millions, with the
Yeah.
internet and
Yeah.
everything. So there's tons of pretty people out there for sure, but it's like just don't fall
Yeah.
into that trap, man. You're better than that. Be better than
Mhm.
that. Like put that energy and that time and those resources somewhere else. It's not helpful to you. I mean, yeah, if it's and there's very different uh parts of it, right? Because some people are actually doing good content, but then you can very clearly see what's what, right? And that's not to say attractive people can't play video games, By all
Yeah.
means
Yeah. Of
do it.
course.
Yeah, if God hath blessed you and you're so happen to just have both, more power to you, do your thing. But even those people, like your audience, like just know if you're an audience member of that person, like why are you there, or at least what brought you there, and maybe you're there now afterwards because for the content, but like just be there for the right reasons, just don't give in to that like pretty lady ooga
Yeah.
booga
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Like just we're called to be better than that, and there's so much more that you can get out of life, so don't just remove the simp from society. I'm trying to like build better men.
Yeah. It's so funny because I feel like just with this topic alone,
Oh
we can
yeah.
make an entire episode on, man.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many guys that have just, I don't know, they think either low of themselves or they don't know their value or they don't, and they just instead of like actually applying themselves and thinking, hey, maybe I actually can work on myself and go find a lady that's going to be attracted to the type of man that I'm building myself up to be. There are a lot of guys, well, they'll just kind of give up. They're just severely overweight, and to them, their relationship is the girl on Twitch.
Yeah.
And they will give her money, and they will get really excited when she calls, says their name every now and then, every blue moon, and say, "Oh, hey, thanks so and so for the money or whatever," and and they're like getting, and yeah, it's just sad. It's sad. So yeah, one of the hardest parts about even being a gamer, in my opinion, is there are times when I'm going to GameStop, I'm picking up a game, I'm like, oh man, Resident Evil's out, Street Fighter's out, and during those major game releases, you see a lot of people sometimes in the store at once, and you can almost tell which guys are kind of like very social and active, even though they're gamers. Maybe they have their girlfriend with them, and maybe their kids or whatever. But then you see some other guys, and sometimes they're just like, I don't know, they're
What
severely
hole did
overweight.
you
You can
crawl
see
out of?
yeah, 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 yeah. And I was trying to be,
I'm
cautious with
I'm a
my
little more
movement.
rough on this one
Like,
than
but
you are. I'm a little more
yeah,
like we're different. Like you're more like you're zealous with the scripture and the law, right? And I'm more zealous
exactly.
of like just get your life together. Like
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, but no, it's just it's almost like you can tell they just kind of crawled out of their mom's basement just to pick up this game and then
just
and just
retreat.
go back.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
go back and back into the darkness, back into you
Into the depths.
you know? And yeah, just and it hurts
Take
me when
showers, people.
the guys are older,
Just public
like you
service
can
announcement.
see. You
Sorry.
said what?
I was just saying, take showers, people. Public service announcement. That's
Oh,
all.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but you can kind of see like there's this serious neglect for themselves, and they have no idea that um, sometimes they could just some minor changes, like you kind of alluded to, can actually make a difference. They can actually attract potentially a lady. And
Yeah.
one thing I'll never forget is that one of the guys that I know, and he's one of the I'm gonna say I don't think he's submitted to the red pill, but he borrows a lot of their philosophies. I'll put it that way. But I remember years ago, my very first girlfriend, and she was a very lovely, Latina, a Salvadorian girl, and she's one of those ladies where she can step into a room and she just commanded attention. She was one of those ladies.
Yeah.
And she just loved attention from guys, and she's very attractive. And but I remember, she met him maybe once or twice years ago when I was dating her, and he's a heavy set guy, and I guess at that point maybe he didn't really. I don't know what was his perception of himself, but she told me straight up, man, he's a really handsome guy, and I actually over the years would tell him that, and I think he kind of would brush it off, and I didn't know if it was humility or whatever, but I think in his mind, like I don't know, he never really thought of himself, and as a handsome guy, so he kind of like
Yeah.
I don't know, he just kind of never embrace that kind of and I would sometimes even bring it up now to him just to remind him like, hey, I remember my girlfriend, man. She was a pretty lovely woman, and man, she said, you're a pretty handsome guy, like try to
Well,
encourage.
yeah, and there's so much to be said about like I mean, I was, I'm still fat right now, but I was like, a fat kid too, and when you grow up like that, it's a lot of self-esteem issues that go with that, right? And that's
Mm,
also part. Don't raise obese kids. It's ways, be a better parent because they will grow up with a bunch of problems. Not it's not permanent problems, people work through their own stuff, but do your part as a parent to make sure they don't have to go through that. Anyway, um yeah, so that's definitely a self-esteem issue, and there's a natural handsomeness, yeah, that people have that you can tell, like regardless, right? And it's just how well they treat themselves or not,
yeah,
And when you grow up with like thinking you'll never get that attention, and then someone gives it to you, you're just like, oh, they're probably just saying that. You don't believe it, right?
yeah, yes,
I actually, as a kid, I was a fatter kid, and I always thought like I would never. I don't know if I could ever get someone that was skinny, right? I thought
wow,
I'd have to settle
really.
for someone that was like fat like me. Yeah.
And I never actually knew you went through that. Wow.
Yeah, no, and it changed one night because my mom like hosted an event at like I think the House of Blues, right? And so I went there with her and I saw this like fat dude that was sitting in a chair, and then he had this like really attractive skinny lady next to him, and she was like giving him some food or whatever, right? And I was like, so there's a chance. So you're telling me I can do it?
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
yeah,
I love how our male mind works because because I felt the same way. I
I had
at
to
one
see it to
point,
believe it.
yeah, but I felt the same way. I felt the same way. I remember even for my own myself, going through different stages in my life, and sometimes I just thought it was, my hair texture, or maybe I wasn't tall enough, or whatever else. But yeah, it was interesting because sometimes I would encounter guys that, and you can kind of see like maybe they were pretty much like almost the same as me, very similar attributes or whatever, and yeah, they attracted a fairly attractive lady, and to me it was like, wow, that just completely changed everything for me. Like it's almost like it almost reminds me of a great analogy would be in 300 King Leonidas, like there was like this idea that King Xerxes is invincible, like he's a
Yeah.
god, and it wasn't until like Leonidas, that last spear at the end, actually struck him. It was like a reminder not only to everyone else but Xerxes, like this is a human being, he can be killed,
Yep.
he can be killed,
Yep.
and that just changed everything. That changed everything. He can be killed.
It's all perception, man.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, man, so
And
yeah, it's so interesting.
that's the other thing too. With like, even if you don't think you look the best or whatever, if when you're actually on a date or you're talking to people out and social, being social, have that confidence that you know what you're about. Like you are a person, you can add value to a situation. Be confident in that, and do your thing. And
Yeah,
people can see
yeah,
that they see that it's genuine. And if you need to take drastic steps to feel that self confidence, you need to do that.
yeah, yeah,
Work on yourself and get more fit, and then that'll come even more naturally and even better. With that
yeah,
with that guy, like I said, I understand where he's coming from. But what's awesome is that you don't have to be fat your whole life. Like there's you can change that. This whole
yeah,
you can say you
yeah,
fat phobic, or like people trying to make like fat people a protected class too, along with like LGBTQ and other stuff, right? It's so stupid. Like people can't change certain things, but people can change other things.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like there's no excuse. It's not
And,
whole fat shaming thing, right? It's like it's
oh
not
yeah, oh
healthy.
yeah.
It's straight up. It's not healthy. Be healthy.
Correct, correct. Yeah,
Um,
it's at the point, it's seriously at the point where I remember like a week or so ago having a conversation with somebody I know about this very topic, and I think she was telling me about Lizzo. I guess has a show on Amazon Prime or something, or
and I guess.
okay, but yeah, apparently all the dancers that Lizzo is trying to, I guess, on this reality show trying to get is, they're all like plus size. They're all plus size, and yeah, I just thought it was interesting, and I think I was telling my friend like, oh, that's so interesting how like clearly this is like an unhealthy lifestyle, and this is
Yeah.
like being advertised as like it's okay, And in her mind, she was thinking, oh well, yeah, they're big, but they can dance and they can do this, and and some guys like big women, and I'm just thinking like, yeah, but the majority doesn't.
Yeah.
We don't do that. There's a reason why, like even with all the major dating sites, Asian women exceeds and gets the most amount of attention over all women because they're petite and small.
Really?
Most men, oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Plenty of Fish reports this. OK Cupid and what's the last one? OK Cupid, Tinder, and Plenty of Fish. Yeah, POF. Yeah, yeah. And they're
And
like the
it's
major.
because they're Asian, or because they're just their figure?
It's a combination of it's a combination of both. It's also has a lot to do with the stereotype of being subservient and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah. There's a
Western.
lot of guys
Yeah,
that
it's just
yeah, there's a
different.
lot of guys that yeah. They just don't want to deal with a woman that's going to be argumentative. So the stereotype is, you go to the Philippines, you go to, you know, Japan, you find a partner, and yeah, she's not going to be arguing with you and to some degree, I can understand the appeal to that because that's what I want. But I mean, of course, I want a wife that's going to actually challenge me sometimes, be better, and
Yeah,
so I don't want somebody that's hanging her head over and, honey, is there something else I can give you? It's like I don't
yeah,
want that. But I can understand it's very unattractive when a woman is argumentative. It's very unattractive when she's ready to um, really argue with a man and just and have an issue about every single thing. There's something about that humility, that beauty that a woman has by, I don't know, that elegance, that I don't know, the femininity. There's something very attractive about that.
yeah.
And
No,
so,
for
so
sure.
yeah, Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, with that whole thing about, growing up fat and everything, and having that viewpoint on yourself and figuring out that no, you can find someone attractive, right? There's like plenty of like TV references too of like different shows and everything where like the guy's like not as, I guess, beautiful as the lady, right? But they can still have a good relationship. And that's,
oh,
first of
always,
all,
always.
if you're funny, you got the ticket in. Like, forget what you look like. Just make her laugh, and you're done, right? It's
Yeah,
set deal. If you're confident and can provide all the other things that they need, yeah, it's
yeah,
over, right? And you can work on
yeah,
yourself in the meantime.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we got it easy. We can look like a Mack truck and still find like a dime for a wife, you know. Case in
Well,
point, right here. So
well,
it's like,
yeah, well, yeah, and that, and not that I want to get into this, but this actually is one of the things that I was trying to allude to, and I didn't want to, I wasn't sure if I wanted to kind of expand on it, but yeah, the dynamic between men and women is there are differences. There are differences.
yeah.
Yeah, we can be overweight, and but we're not judged as harshly, especially if we
By
have other things.
society for it. Yeah, and that's what we were saying for earlier, where we just bring different things to the table. Women
Yeah, there
are
you go. There you go.
accepted for their natural beauty, right? And
Correct,
society
correct,
deems a lot more importance on that, and that's why people are
correct.
so obsessed with their looks and everything. And then if they're not as pretty, it's like they're not as
Yeah,
valued, which bad to
yeah,
say or not. That's just straight up. And with us,
yeah.
like we again. Well, first of all, pretty people privilege is a thing that exists. Like, you can look at any statistic. People will literally get shorter prison sentences because they are attractive. That is a
Mm,
fact.
mm,
So,
mm.
men or women, right? But typically, women are the more beautiful sex, and they have a lot more innate beauty to them. So it's more prevalent on their side of it. Whereas men, they can provide more things that are like just lift heavy objects, and that was more important back then for most things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, bringing value as far as being funny or whatever else you can bring, like that's you need to do something, or else no one's
Mm.
gonna really pay attention to you too much. And some guys, it is being looking really pretty. That's fine. You worked
Yeah,
hard for that
exactly.
too.
There you go.
Um,
So
yeah,
funny.
that's just the way things are, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very interesting. One of the videos that a buddy of mine showed me months ago. I think it was like yeah, sometime last year, around this time last year, was there was a lady that I guess she's been on YouTube for I don't know 2 3 years, and I don't think any of her videos went necessarily viral, but she addressed one topic that did go viral, and it was called pretty privilege, and she
Oh
was a
yeah,
yeah yeah and Black American lady about my complexion, and she was basically saying that because she's not lighter complexion, and in my community, that's like a big topic. That's always been a big topic with
I've
light skin,
heard.
dark
Yeah,
skin.
even for Mexicans too.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Latinos as well, but
Sorry,
yeah,
yeah,
but it's
Latino, Latin X, James, you
yeah,
terrorist.
yeah. But yeah, but she was just saying how she's had a friend or friends that are either mixed or they're lighter complexion or they're I don't know they have these certain a different hair texture or whatever, and yeah, they can come in a bar or come into a club or come into any environment, and she herself can be dressed up, and she even used an opportunity, an example where it was her birthday, and she dressed up, with this beautiful outfit, and she even showed a picture, and it actually looked pretty, okay, but she mentioned like her friend or friends because they have, maybe they're mixed, maybe they have different, like they every time they're always around guys are all over them. So it's at the point now where this lady who did the video, she stopped hanging out with them in those environments because she couldn't, And I guess from a psychological standpoint, it kind of hurt her. And at first, when I looked at the video, I was thinking, oh, okay, this lady's just, complaining basically, she's just, sad with life, and I do detect a little bit of that, kind of like I almost feel like she can use one of those pep talks, like you're kind of providing, like it's almost like she just kind of gave up. And then
Yeah,
she's even talking about like even at work, like the guys seem to the only guy that seemed to give her attention was the gay guy, and she said in some weird way, like she even tried to not try to get with him, but she appreciated getting some type of attention from a man, because like she didn't really get it, and she kind of equated, being black and then her age and her complexion, like all these, And but the more I listened to it, I was thinking, gosh, I don't want to agree with her. I don't want to, but even as a guy, like, yeah, there's certain attributes that really stands out. They
Yeah.
really stand out. They really stand out. They really, even today, I'll share this. Even today, I was talking to one of my female friends I haven't, talked to in a while, and I've known her for I don't know 2 years or so through social media, and she's an attractive lady. Um, and yeah, today I was like, you know what? I'd love to meet up with you for lunch. Like we both live in California, and I think she's in like Temecula or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my head I was thinking, yeah, I find her attractive. Like it's very easy to want to,
Just
drive
go
30
there.
miles to see her. Yeah, it's very easy. It's very easy. You know, there's that motivation and but yeah, I just think it's interesting because it is a thing. It is a thing. And yeah, you're right. Even with handsome people as well. I'm sure Chris Hemsworth, or even any of the Chris's of the Marvel, like
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah, a lot of people are drawn to them, attracted to them. They're not only their character and their presence and their confidence, like you mentioned, but yeah, they're attractive guys. So of course, yeah, they're gonna have
Yeah, it's a
those
life hack.
benefits.
It's just
Yeah,
reality. It's a life hack.
yeah, I never knew you went through that situation, the
I mean, a
phase,
lot of
man.
people do. It's hard. It's hard not to. I
Mhm.
specifically remember because I was a cute kid, like for
Yeah, yeah,
like first couple grades in grade school, right? And then I started
okay,
like getting chunky and like got a lot less attention, right? Like
oh, interesting.
literally, like there were girls in the class that would like give me a shoulder rub or like trap me on the playground and chase after me and stuff. And this was like I didn't. It was like
Mm.
girls are gross. I don't want to touch you. Like get away,
You remember
right?
that? Oh, so you actually remember like the transition, like with
Yeah,
the attention.
yeah. It was like around third or
Wow,
fourth grade. Yeah.
wow, wow, wow.
It was just different. Like kindergarten, first grade, even second grade. Yeah, there was a lot of attention like that, and then I still got attention and stuff. It was just different from those people specifically. It changed, right? And maybe
Hmm.
that's just that one or two or three people, but
Hmm.
because I still had people that were attracted, but it was different, right?
Interesting, interesting.
Um, and then yeah, so there's just different stuff that went into that, but it's just being confident overall, right? Because I was still a fairly
True.
outgoing guy. I was like pretty funny. I was a class clown, and I got kind of confidence through that, right? So that helped
Nice.
me a lot. And then in high school, I just wanted to get in a relationship to actually try stuff out, right? To like as far as like actually being boyfriend and girlfriend, I hadn't had one before.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but that whole confidence thing, you just have to like you can work on your looks over time, but don't let that stop you, right? Just like you should be
Yeah.
confident in your social repertoire to be able to hold a conversation and entertain people.
That's so interesting you bring that up because I feel like I naturally learned how to be more in, like really recognize that through experience, and it was really my preschool jobs actually.
Yeah.
I would be very funny with the kids, and so it was very easy to work with kids, but always their kids would eventually tell their parents about me and and then the parents would want to come meet me and talk to me and just converse with me. And so to me it was kind of like at first it was kind of intimidating. It's like, and especially when I started working at private schools because a lot of these people they were entrepreneurs. They were doing very well for themselves. They're like
Yeah.
talking to you in the morning and they're about to get on a plane to go to Africa or Egypt and or Greece because they have other things they need to do.
Where are
So
you
it was just
teaching?
very
Jesus.
yeah. But yeah, yeah, but no, it was interesting, and I remember learning that even though I have this introverted personality, I had to come out. I had to come out. Like
Yeah.
even pretend that I was confident. And I noticed that the more I did it, I actually it was like a workout program. It got easier.
You fake it
It
till you
became
make it.
something like that, something like that. But it actually became easier. So I still found myself very exhausted, like socially
Oh
afterwards.
yeah,
Like I'm like
yeah.
locking myself in the bathroom, like
That's not gonna
you know,
change.
you know, but yeah, but I noticed I became more resilient. It was kind of like even when I started doing push-ups. I remember the first time, I was like in my early 20s. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start working out, and I remember like doing three push-ups really was like killing me. It was killing me, you know. But I remember as I continued, I would start watching, maybe I would watch a whole movie, and the average movie is about an hour and 30 minutes. but I would do like repetitions of 20, and it would be like, and I'd be watching the film and I just got used to it. And then your body just so it goes along with it. It's like, okay, this is a routine. All right, I'm gonna adapt to this, and so it
Yeah.
becomes easier, and yeah. So, but it was the same thing with that. So I have to definitely agree is that confidence thing. It especially for us guys, like it does something. It just transforms and it just turns us into something else. It can
It's
really
beautiful.
amplify who it is that we are if we do it the right way. That confidence makes a big difference. Big difference.
It's beautiful how that happens. Like the cocoon and then the emerging butterfly of
Right,
man.
right. I love that. Right.
Like growing up and
Yeah.
like becoming a man. That's what I'm talking about with all this simp stuff. Like just grow. Like you have so much potential, so much
Yeah.
masculinity untapped. You know.
Yes.
Um, put down the phone, put down the OnlyFans, put down the PayPal, and go hit the gym, right? Or
There
find
you go.
purpose.
There you go. Yeah. Seriously.
No, it's great. That's my whole thing. Like getting people to like realize they have that in them and like just
Right. Right.
becoming the best version of themselves, right? Any way I can do that. Uh, yeah, that was we go off on relationships. That's
Yes,
our
we do, man. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say, man, that by itself can really carry on with us, man.
yeah. Did you have any other like bangers like that for your week, or can I talk about myself for a little bit? Damn. Uh,
To be honest with you, you know me, I'm always on social media. I'm always having discussions and arguments and exchanges, and
Tons of
so
stories.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I'm always gonna have something
That's good.
probably.
That's why
Yeah,
this works.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
um,
no, no. Honestly, on a lighter note. Oh, you gonna say something?
no, no. I mean, first of all, let's just take a break real quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, we're back. A little break action. That was kind of a big segment for us. So, James, interesting week. He always has one.
You know it.
Yeah. So for us here on my end of things, we've had a pretty long week, I'd say. Not much sleep happened this week. We
Yeah.
do have a 5-month-old daughter, and she is starting the teething process. Um, yeah, so her gums are very very painful for her right now, and she's kind of just screaming a lot. So not getting much sleep at night. That's kind of been this week's theme, lack of sleep. So that's fun, right? um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like weird because uh, I guess that's kind of why people would like give their kid like a pinky full of whiskey or whatever, right? That whole like that
I've
old
heard. Yeah, I've
advice.
heard it.
Yeah, yeah, to kind of soothe them and let them fall asleep. And that's like it makes sense, man. Like 'cause she is just unsatiable at night. Like it's
Mm,
not her diaper. It's not she's not hungry. She doesn't want to be held. It's just pain. And it like
mm,
it hurts so much. Like as it because I'll be holding her and I'm trying to calm her down and she's just like crying and she's doing this and
mm,
it's yeah
mm.
it's heart wrenching for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So little baby's going through it. Um,
Mm.
we have
And
different
how's your sleep? Yeah, how's your sleep schedule with all this happening? Is that it does ex
schedule sleep, huh? No, me and Julie both are up like from like 1 to 5 or 6, and then we get like maybe 4 hours in the morning. Because right now I'm able to wake up a little late, but
Okay.
we want to get up at like around 7, but like this week it's been like we're not even. Yeah. Um, but apart
Wow.
from that, we've had some good times. We've been playing some like I've been playing more Elden Ring and everything after getting all my stuff done, and it's going really strong, man. It's really
Mm.
fun getting these different spells and everything, and like I said, I can throw lightning and everything now, and getting different flame spells. And what's interesting is I actually found a place like on the map where it's like an elevator shaft that like goes down, and it goes down like it was probably like 30 to almost like 35 seconds of just the
Whoa.
elevator going down, and you see these vast like landscapes and everything, and you're like
Really?
still going. Yeah. um and so you think the map's big enough as it is, and then you unlock this entire under area you know.
Really?
There's a couple times in Elden Ring where you get teleported to another place or something, right? Because
Mhm.
it localizes in on your map when you look at it, and it's like, okay, it's pretty
Mhm.
big, it's got stuff everywhere, and then you get to another section and it backs up, and it's like,
Oh,
oh, it's bigger, you know. And then you'll open up a chest or something that teleports you way across the map, and you're like here in this little speck, and then you back up even more, and you're like, that's where I was all the way back there, right?
wow.
So if that wasn't bad enough, there's a bunch of stuff that already makes it a huge game, and then I go like miles underground, and I have the audacity to hit the map button, and it tells me click the left stick to see the below map. And
Whoa.
yeah,
Huh?
so this map is not only like 2D giant, but now it has a third dimensional property where you just there's a map underneath that has the same like landscape landmass, like
Mm.
same territory, but it's just different
Mhm.
everywhere, right? Because you're under all of
Mhm.
it.
Oh my
So
God.
I can't understate the vastness of this game. It's crazy, right?
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's super fun, and
Wow.
we're still running the scythe. We're using more spells and everything, and exploring that under area. It was more difficult. They had some like Minotaur people that were pretty troublesome, and everything dealt more damage. But I basically was going around, and I was. It's what's interesting is like so much of gaming is like a puzzle, right? An
Yeah.
indirect puzzle. You know, like how do I get out of this room? How do I beat this boss? Right? It's like a puzzle, like we talked about last time too. Um, so it doesn't tell you what you have to do, but I lit one thing on fire and saw the corresponding staircase, one of the pillars lit on fire. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, so I go around the whole area that I'm in and light some other things on fire, and the path keeps lighting up. So once I lit everything, I went up there, and lo and behold, there's a boss fight. um, yeah. So that was pretty cool. This one was actually really awesome. This one was a like a stag. It was like a giant woodland creature. Well, like an enchanted stag, right? Like giant, great antlers and a lot of magic attacks and everything. It was just, and the music too was like just serene. It was more
Oh,
like beautiful than it was like scary or like troublesome. It was still like a hard boss. It took me a couple tries, but it was just really like awesome to see. It was one of those fights where it's like I wish it would have lasted longer. You know?
wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
because
I
it was
love
just the
those.
whole concept of that, like a giant fighting a giant steer, right?
Mhm.
A giant stag was
Mhm.
super super fun. Um, and the environment and everything was beautiful. So that game continues to be awesome. And I was
I like
actually
that.
like going back through and like talking to different non-player controlled characters, right? You can basically, if you talk to them and exhaust their dialogue, there's not typically like quest lines. Like most games will have like a logbook with like quests, right, or tell you what to
Oh, yeah.
do to
Yeah.
progress. This one, you just talk to people and you do what they say. They vaguely give you a description of what you would have to do. Like someone just said, "Oh, if you meet someone named Darwill, right? Tell me where he is." Or some people will say, "Oh, go! My fort was taken. If you go capture it, like take the people out of there and then come talk to me, right?" And so you
Mm.
advance these NPCs quest lines doing stuff like that, and then they'll show up in a different location
Oh,
later on.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. And typically in the other Dark Souls games, what happened was you advance their quest line, and then you see some of their armor set or some of their weapon or whatever after a boss fight, and so it's like, oh, they died trying to do this.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot like you kind of advance until you can't advance it anymore, right? They get to a point, you help them on their journey, and then they didn't make it, right?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's.
It's interesting, and and also this whole summoning system in Dark Souls, but Elden Ring too, where
Mm.
you get to click on a summon sign and summon a helper to your world. These NPCs will come and help you sometimes. So if there's a boss fight that's gonna happen, you can summon help, and sometimes they'll show up and they'll like help you beat the
The
boss.
people that encountered that you were conversing with?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
So
that's
there's this guy named like Blyle, I think, or something. I just met him, or not blade, but like something similar spelling, right? And so he's
Okay.
like half wolf. You know, he has like a wolf head, and he's like giant armor and a giant sword, right? And
Okay.
so if I get to a certain boss, I'm sure I'll be able to have the ability to summon him, could like I have other people, you know.
Mm.
Um, and then you just get to see their awesome move set and everything with that their
Mm.
unique weapons. So it's a really cool like interaction if you take the time to actually talk to the people and exhaust their dialogue, you know.
Oh wow, wow.
You have to be intentional with it though. You have to like press the talk button like probably 3 or 4 times, right, to get all their dialogue. It doesn't just go you in a cutscene and everything they have to say is said. You know, you have to like intentionally
Oh,
like, oh, there's another prompt to talk to them again. Let me talk to them until they would, I guess, repeat the message, right?
oh, interesting, interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very like not direct. You know,
Yeah,
it's very vague
wow.
and everything, but it's super rewarding in the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it really encourage you to actually communicate.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, which cool. Yeah, I love that. I love
hmm
that.
And what's
Nice.
interesting is like different NPCs will interact with each other, you know?
Oh, oh,
So like if
nice.
some don't like each other, you might end up one might end up not there anymore sometimes depending. Like you got to kind of be on the lookout for that kind of stuff too, you know? Some of them help each other. So there was one NPC that I talked to and she went to the main hub, right, of the game. But she said she lacked confidence or whatever. And then I talked to the armor smith, the guy that's the blacksmith that's like upgrading the weapons, and he
Mhm.
talked about like, oh, she has the potential to do this thing. I've noticed it. I've seen it in other people. So you talk to the guy armor smith, you talk to her, and then you talk to him again. And now the next time you show up after time has passed, say you beat a boss or you
Mhm.
discover another save point, you can come back, and now she knows how to upgrade something for you. You know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah, yeah. So
cool.
there's all kind of connected stuff like that. It's
I
super.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I've never played a game like this, but even like games like I don't know, let's say Red Dead Redemption or something with I don't know. There's this encouragement to explore,
Yeah.
and sometimes you can go into a house and just talk to a random family, and there's some that will literally try to attack you because you're walking to their house.
Yeah.
But others, they may encourage you to come in, and they may even say, "Hey, stranger, if you can help me with this, I'll give you this whatever weapon." And yeah, but I love games that uh, I don't know.
Encourage your like
I,
exploring.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Love that. Yeah, it's because there's some of us that it's so funny because I remember playing uh I think I was in high school at the time, and I was really talking to other gamers, and I think I was discussing like one of the Final Fantasy games. Like I really enjoyed the dialogue, and you really studying how to attack a certain enemy. You can't attack certain enemies with electricity, or you'll be strengthening them. You have to be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the guys that I was talking to, he was just talking about like he doesn't even have time for that. He just wants to shoot something. He just wants to hit them. Like he doesn't have time. And I think it occurred to me like, oh, we're all different, even though
We
we're
are all
gamers.
very different. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all and I just realized like some people look at Grand Theft Auto like, man, I get to do whatever I want, and other people say, nah, that's not really my thing. And Final Fantasy, some people love those stories, and other people think it's really sappy and kind of like fanboy, kind of like I'm not really into that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's very interesting to see that yeah
People
we're
play
all
it for
very
many different reasons. Like there's like people that just want a story told, right? They want to basically a movie that you can play in, right?
yeah. I mean that's me. That's
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah,
And there's
enjoy that.
there's there's people that just enjoy the setting, right? Like the world building and stuff. There's people that really like to role play, right?
Yeah.
Like there's GTA and everything. You can do whatever you want. But I don't know if you've heard of GTA like role playing servers.
No.
There's a whole community on Twitch of people that will go because GTA Online, right? And you
Yeah.
start in, and then it's like actual like Grand Theft Auto roleplay thing. Like you people you roleplay as like a gang or like as police or whatever, and there's
Oh
people
my
that are
goodness.
going at it, and they have to stick to the role play, you know? And
No,
yeah, yeah,
what?
that's a thing, absolutely.
Wow.
Um,
Uh,
so there's communities like that. There's people that like love the competition, right? The first person shooters and everything else. Like
yeah, I
that's
was
like
gonna
one of the
say,
most popular.
yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, I know more of those guys. They're just
Yeah.
like, hey, just give me the gun, Call of Duty, I'm good.
Some people
Yeah,
like the accomplishment of like beating bosses. Some people like cooperating, right? Working together
yeah,
to solve something. And Other people like replayability, different outcomes and choosing your own story, stuff like this. Tons of different outlets for games, and a lot of them intersect.
That's
And
so true.
what's great about this one is like it hits so many bars.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's so much replayability with like different weapons and movesets and everything. You can play
Mhm.
the game and then there's probably you can't even like come up with a number for how many different ways there are to beat the game. And just by choosing
Yeah.
a different weapon or choosing different stats to increase or decrease, it's an
Mhm.
entirely different playthrough. And I might have talked about it
Absolutely.
before, but like yeah, I would be sword and shield, right? Sword and board, and you just tank
Mhm.
every hit and you hit when you can, versus someone that has two weapons in both hands and is just going for damage and dodging, right? And then people
Interesting.
that stay in the back and just shoot spells.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's so cool. I love it. I almost feel like that accommodates like almost every personality right
everybody,
there.
everybody, yeah. And there's
Ah,
builds that will like do poison damage, just like that. They don't care how much their weapon does, but they're just trying to get that poison proc on you,
mm.
right?
Oh yeah.
There's builds that are more specific towards player versus player, the competition aspect, because you can invade other people, you know. So
Funny.
yeah, yeah. So that game is very all encompassing. Even what's awesome about is some of the bosses seem like kind of weapon test runs, right? They'll do this awesome move set and they'll come and they'll hit you and like, oh, that guy looks super cool, and then you kill him and he drops his weapon, you know, and it's like, oh, that was awesome. Let me like build so I can use this weapon.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I saw this like someone had like a giant hammer and everything, and I'm like, here, I'm throwing lightning bolts. I could literally be Thor. Like I could just run around with a giant hammer and throw lightning and be Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that like freedom to do that is also like super enticing to people too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, I love that. I love that. I mean, that's one of the things I love about just like I said, like games like Grand Theft Auto, and I love that. There's certain games that yeah, you almost. I think the game that I got into that sort of is closest to what I would say Elden Ring is the Fable games.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
I actually got into those, and I ended up buying like all three. You know, every time they came out with a new one, I bought it and I just stayed on it until I finished it.
Yeah,
And it was so interesting because each game I could see they tried to make it more interesting and try to even with the last one. Like I guess one of the issues people were complaining about is the fact that people would finish the games fairly quickly because they would stay on the game. So they almost made a different aspect of after you rule, like basically entering like politics and making decisions that affect the region and stuff like that. And
yeah,
yeah, so it was very interesting. Just and eventually you can choose the lady, and you can have a family, and then you can have multiple families if you want, and you can be homosexual. Yeah, they really started to, and then based on what attacks that you were known for, your character would be more sculpted more towards that. So if you did a lot of magic, you would have these, I don't know, like, these glowing tattoos that would develop all more on your body more and more. Or if you
yeah.
were always doing like physical attacks, you would get more bulkier. It was very interesting, very interesting. The archer, I think, was an option, and it was just
How it
very
all
interesting.
adapts to yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
funny is like playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's like an older tabletop RPG. It seems like a lot of game mechanics kind of stem from that, right? The
Mm-hmm.
dungeon making system, like level designing, and then character design, character tropes, right? The mage, the fighter,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the
There you go. Yeah, yeah.
um, stuff like that is like all, and especially in fantasy, right, where it's kind of akin to that. There's all
Hmm.
sorts of roles that you can go into, but even in like sci-fi or MOBAs and first-person shooters now, there's like roles like a tank role, a damage role, right, a support role where you're healing people.
Hmm.
So all that stuff is kind of just interesting how it kind of turns back to like just a tabletop RPG setting.
No, it's
Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because it works. And yeah, it's funny because I even look at like games like Resident Evil. They basically are giving us the same thing, but it's kind of changing the story a little bit. So I kind of feel like yeah, if it's not broke, there's no need to fix it.
yeah. And what's
Yeah.
what's funny about this one, I told you last time that Julie, like, when it comes to the first boss, Julie kind of circumvented that whole castle, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I was more straight line to the boss, and so it took me like a bunch of tries to get him down, right? I
Wow.
finally did it, But she, just before this podcast, I encouraged her, yeah, actually go over there, see what's over there. And she was like, no, no, I don't want to. As soon as like the cutscene started, and I'm like, ah, you're locked in now.
Did it? No, you did it.
Yeah, but she did great. She kicked his ass. Like and that's what's great about that one is that game is like there's not much structure to it. It's free roam, so you can come back super powerful, and bosses are just easy to you. You know, she didn't one hit kill it or anything, but like it was a lot easier for her than it was for me. You know.
Hey,
Yeah.
interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
so that was fun. You know, I'm happy for her that yeah she figured it out and she's progressing pretty good.
Oh, no, that's awesome, man. Wow. That's, no, that's cool. That's cool. Very cool.
So apart from that stuff, yeah, that was my week, and kind of getting to like a more of a philosophical question. Not that we've already talked about relationships a ton, but I guess this is just the relationship episode, and I might write that down. We'll do something with the title for that, because as soon as we closed on Sunday, a big, cheek turning event happened, right? Where everyone is kind of just all eyes on this moment, right? So I don't know if you're familiar, but there's this show called the Oscars that happens. There's this awards show.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yes. There we go. Yeah.
typically people aren't. I heard tale of it, right? It's folklore. It's legend. I haven't seen it myself, but no. So ratings for the show or the award show have been down, and then as soon as we kind of closed our little session here on Sunday, I hear all the news of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. You know, and you were pretty quick. You were quick on the fly with your response, and you had a video up I think the next day. Kudos
Yeah,
to
I
you.
did.
I was thinking
I did.
about like talking to you about it, but like let's save it. Because I
Okay.
think
Well, for the future, I am open to if we can to get on something like this.
okay, as
Yeah.
soon as we could. Sure,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Just some stuff may demand our attention. So.
That's true, and that's what's crazy. It's like I hate the fact that like rich people or whatever just like have this ability to demand our attention, right? Everyone's
Yeah,
talking about it.
Oh, yeah. A slap that was heard around the world.
That was someone's video title on YouTube. It was great.
Yeah, yeah. That's the expression that everyone's been using, and like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I guess so. To everyone's kind of known of the situation, but to break it down, Chris Rock told a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith's wife, and is referencing her baldness and everything. And it seemed like Will had laughed at first, and then
Yeah, Nick, he did. He did.
right, and then the camera pans over to Chris as he's saying, "Oh, it's not even that bad a joke, my bad, or whatever," right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
it cuts to Will Smith just like walking on stage, and he gives one of the swiftest like smacks I've ever seen. Like there was
Yeah,
such precision in that. Like people,
yeah.
there was all sorts of
Yeah.
geometry that went along with it.
Yeah.
Such a calculated strike.
Definitely. I was even watching the way he approached Chris. It was almost like in a non-combative way. So you
Yeah,
don't know what he was up to.
yeah.
And I kind of felt like, it was almost like a cheap shot, kind of like,
You could say,
surprise, you know.
yeah. I mean, he didn't go up like brooding.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But I don't
Um,
know. You look and he just kind of, you can tell like Chris didn't know what was happening. Like, oh, what's going on? Like, this is Will. I have a relationship with him, like, what's going on? And.
yeah.
He didn't know what was happening, and yeah, it was just yeah. I have to say I'm very disappointed uh, with seeing something like that from Will Smith.
Yeah,
And
definitely,
yeah,
a big step for him in some type of direction, right? And
yeah, yeah,
that's not even the end of it. Like he goes and he sits down, and then he says, keep my wife's name out your effing mouth, and he shouts it
yeah,
twice, like
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah,
up in arms about it.
yeah, and yeah, and there's a lot of questions of whether this was staged or not, possibly.
I saw
Uh,
that some of that.
yeah, yeah, that's the theory. Some people are breaking down the segments of each. Was the slap real, and did he position his neck to prepare for the slap, and is it, and then everyone knows that um, the Oscars and a lot of these award shows, a lot of people have lost interest in the last
No
four
one
or five
cares.
years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't even know it was happening until
Yep.
he just
Same.
slapped my news feed. I'm like, what the? Let me put this on my, my TV. What's going on? But yeah, yeah. So in a way, it would make sense if they said, okay, let's set this up, guys, that we're gonna do this thing, and now people are gonna start tuning in at least for the next few years, And you have like this big actor that the world knows, like all seven continents knows who Will Smith is. He's a household name practically. So
Yeah.
it would make sense, but yeah, I'm convinced that yeah, this is the legit slap. I do believe that Will is demonstrating that he's not in a healthy place, and I think he's demonstrating that he hasn't been in a healthy place for a very long time to think that this is acceptable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad that there is talk of the repercussions and him stepping down from certain positions and Netflix backing away from future projects with him. Like, I am glad that there are repercussions.
Are
I'm
you
glad.
participating in cancel culture, James? Are you trying to cancel Will Smith?
And it's so funny because your mom can tell me because once upon a time I used to just really think that he was like the ideal Christian man, and at the time
Yeah.
I didn't know what a Christian man even was, but I just loved his interviews about the universe and about building yourself up and designing yourself and I started realizing like he's saying all these things and they're not biblical concepts, like
Mm-hmm.
not at all. And I started paying attention to certain things that he was saying. Yeah, he was not grounding anything in scripture at all. It was always manifesting this and the universe is like, oh no, that's oh no,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, but it just and I think sometimes in our world there's this impression that if you make a lot of money, you're successful not only with your career and all that, but you're somehow successful with God and spirituality and your character and your integrity and that's not the case. That's not
Yeah.
necessarily the case. Sometimes you're just good at making money, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I,
and
I, I get you.
mhm.
There's definitely a lot of threads to pull on with this one. A lot of different
Yeah,
concepts that
seriously,
are kind of broached.
seriously,
I
seriously.
actually think I think overall we probably have the same stance, but definitely initially my take was like a little bit different, you know.
Okay, okay.
So I
What's
did.
your
I saw your take, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, James. And I was like, we got stuff to talk about. Um, so here's the thing, and I
okay?
think there's a lot that goes into it as far as like their past relationship, Jada and Will and everything, and that's a whole another segment to it because it has such effect on like Will's psyche, and he's been kind of humiliated in the public eye for like years now with that whole thing that's going on between Jada and August, and I don't know the other guy's full name, but I just know
Yeah,
his first
yeah,
name's
yeah,
August,
yeah.
but one of uh, Jaden Smith's friends, basically, right?
Mm,
Um, but so that definitely has an effect on the man's psyche and what he's doing. But I think so from a base standpoint. First of all, I didn't think that the slap was all that like rough, right? So it took me actually to the next day to acknowledge
mm.
that no physical assault, is wrong and it shouldn't be allowed in circumstances to,
Oh, okay.
to
I
fully
see.
because just something about the way it was done, the way it was handled, and then the whole concept of defending a loved one and not allowing someone to talk ill, right? And
Mm,
so with that regard, and it comes with a bunch of caveats because first of all, the joke did not warrant that response.
agreed.
There was
Agreed.
no well, not that we know of, but like there was no history of like previous harsher jokes or anything. There's no like build up. It was just like a one off, and it
Yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah.
very mild one. So to have that like I don't want to say nuclear, but like that type of response to that, right? It's like not right. But initially when I saw it, everyone was having their takes of like, oh, how dare he punch him, or physical assault is never okay. And I'm just the whole time I'm thinking, but I swear you guys are stands for people like, don't you want to be defended in a relationship? Aren't you like, if someone just like lets someone walk over their girlfriend or
Yeah,
whatever, aren't
yeah,
they not a man? Is that not what you want? You know?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
yeah.
whole like counter thing, like how are you don't want it now though, when it's exemplified
Oh,
on
that's
that
interesting.
stage?
That's an interesting angle. That's an interesting angle.
And so
Mm.
I'll get more into that in a little bit, but so from the fact, and also it was the fact that like it was such a swift like slap, right? And it
Mm.
seemed so not under the table, not in jest. Like it was a serious slap, but it wasn't like meant to. It wasn't meant to have like a confrontation. You know,
Mm.
it was
Mm.
like a almost like taking off your glove and slapping somebody, challenging them to a duel, right? It
Actually,
was like
that's actually what it looks like. It really
it
looks.
was like you. That's disrespectful. You know,
Yeah.
here's a physical reprimand. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he went and sat down. And then he
Yeah.
escalated
Yeah.
like, keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. But I've heard that before. Not like in that. This is like one of the ultimate examples of it. But I've heard that sentiment before. Where people like keep her name. That's my wife. Keep her name out of your
Mhm.
mouth.
Mhm.
So something about the I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want like there's a lot of factors to look into it because he is like it's just rich people doing their thing. He's not supposed to be a standard, and when you look at it, it's obviously an awful standard, like you said. Like there's blinders everyone has because they see all the good he does and the good roles he plays and everything and the good messages he sends. But when you look at it critically, they have an open marriage. A lot of the foundation of that is baseless. And there's other things, but so what I want to say is that I feel like it takes a lot of courage for anybody, and this could just be him high on power and high on wealth and high on celebrity, but it takes a lot of courage to, on a stage like that, knowing everything that it means, to still get up and defend it and not have it be blown off, right? I don't think that was necessary for that scenario, for that joke. I don't think it warranted it. And I also don't think Jada deserves it. I don't think she's someone that is worthy of that stalwart defense. I don't think that's a relationship that's worthy of that defense. But I would hope, in my core, if someone had disrespected my wife like not like that, because I don't like that. I don't think that joke warranted it. But if there was some serious disrespect going on, that I had the courage, no matter what platform, no matter how many people watching, that I would go up and put an end to it. You know. And that's maybe my own past and everything. I've had some different things where I've done something similar, or in high school. Like I don't know if you're familiar with like I guess roasting culture. I don't know if you grew up with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of prevalent, right? It's kind of everywhere. Your boys give you
Oh,
crap for stuff, and it's hurtful when it comes from people that aren't your boys, right? But a lot of
yeah.
times when your friends do it, it's more so in jest, but it can be taken too seriously, or if it's just repeated, right? So, yeah, there were times when like we were made fun of or something, me and Julie, when we were like in high school and everything, and I felt I'm not the most quick-witted, silver-tongued guy, I think I'm good and I'm funny and everything, and I can talk to people well, but I'm not very quick with a response all the time as far as like a roast or whatever. So when I'm like the target of it or anything, I felt bad and I felt kind of powerless in that scenario. I'm not going to physically confront somebody because I'm bigger than them over a joke,
Yeah.
especially if it's my
Yeah.
friend when they don't mean it, but it
Yeah.
still hurts, right? And I
Oh.
specifically remember seeing some tweet or something in that time that was like, if you don't stand up for your girlfriend, if you let people talk trash or whatever, you're not even a man. Like, what are you even doing?
Oh. Yikes.
And so I don't know if I internalize that a little bit or whatever, right? But I
Yeah.
see that like that split right now, right? And it's
Mm.
like no one has that same energy right now, you know?
Mm.
And I think there are a lot of cowards in the world. I think there are tons of people that would not stand up for their wife or their significant other,
Mm.
no matter the disrespect, Despite the size, despite all of the variables, they wouldn't even mutter a word because of social stigma, right? If there's any more people than them, than the man and the wife in his room, if there's one other person, two other people, five other people, they're less and less likely to actually say like, oh no, I don't appreciate, like, stop that. Like, that's my wife you're talking about.
Mhm.
So for me, it comes from a place of that. Like, I think not many people are actually willing to stand up for their significant others like that, and it's necessary in some senses. There was one time in high school, and I don't know if this is before or after I saw that, but I did start trying to be more like, I care about this person and I want to
Yeah.
defend them, their honor, not just let them, especially like, but not just when they're looking, make sure behind their back too. Like, don't let people just do that behind their back too.
Mhm.
There was one time when I was at a football meeting during lunch, and I come back and she's all worried and like acting weird and anxious and stuff. And apparently, someone who was her ex for like 3 months or whatever, they were hanging out, or I guess around the same friends or whatever. But she was just sitting down, and I guess he touched her hair or something. It was a
Hmm.
very weird thing, but it
Okay.
clearly creeped her out, and she was clearly upset about it. And so
Mhm.
I was like, "Where is he? You know, where's he at right now?" And she was like, "No, just forget it. It's stupid." And so I went up to him and I like told him to stand up, and I said like, "Hey, you don't get to touch her. You don't get to do anything like that to her. Like that's my girlfriend. That's my lady. Like you can't do that." And
Mm.
it was very stern with it, and I love that I'm super tall and I could like intimidate like that,
Oh,
because
yeah,
I
I was
was
gonna say
definitely
that,
looking
that helps a
down.
lot. That helps a lot. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
he
big
shouldn't have touched this.
football player and everything, and I was like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
no,
That
don't do
really,
that.
yeah, that really,
That doesn't
yeah.
fly. That's not how
Mm.
this is going.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably like the one time, but something just came up. I'm like, no, I need to take care of this right now. And it didn't end in a physical
Yeah.
confrontation, but I was, I wasn't gonna shy away from it. I wasn't expecting it. I was trying to use my words, and they worked. But
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, Tim, I'm actually, I really appreciate you coming from the angle you have, because I feel like everybody that I've actually listened to since this situation has happened has either, it might be D.L. Hughley or some other comedian or actor that maybe they were in a past relationship or they don't really respect women at all. And so it's very easy for them to kind of have an opinion because, they're not in a loving relationship. They're not really protecting anyone. And and even though I will say that Will Smith is completely out of line, especially with the type of influence he has. Like I said, literally around the world. I mean, there's people who
yeah,
don't even speak English that know his name. Um, but yeah, when I'm going to say with the scenario you just shared, that is called for.
yeah,
That is necessary. That is something that needs to happen. Even if you're shorter than the guy, hey, next, please don't put your hands on, you know,
and that's the
at all.
thing too.
That's my
Yeah,
lady. Yeah. It's no, but yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I mean, as far as the will thing, I mean, you see my video, you know where my thoughts are. He has a lot of influence, and that was completely, inappropriate. I do admire the fact that, yeah, as a husband, he does want to defend um, his wife, and you and I, we've talked about the fact that they seem to be in an open marriage, and one of the jokes that has been circulating online is the fact that it's okay to apparently, sleep with his wife, but you can't talk about her
yeah,
hair.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
He
which
is
is
getting
like,
destroyed online. There's tons of
oh,
memes
oh,
going. Twitter
oh
had a
yeah,
field day. There's like
yeah, yeah,
tons of
yeah.
jokes being thrown around, and that's what's hard and what made me reevaluate, because it came from a core response for me because of those reasons, right? And I
Mm,
still feel like that to this day about certain aspects of it. But when you look at that situation specifically, there's no right answer for it. You know, the
really?
joke didn't warrant it. The relationship doesn't warrant that defense. And they're foundationally like, yeah, you say like, oh, that's my wife, like, but it's like you're not. It's not like a sanctified marriage. It's an open relationship. It's not what foundation. What is that? They're just
Yeah,
two people making it work, and maybe I'm. And part of it too comes from I when that whole thing came out and she said she was cheating on him, and they had that basically embarrassing him all over line online, and it was rough to watch, and I'm like, why would someone ever stay with someone after that? Or, why, what is the purpose of that? Like I didn't understand it. I have a different understanding of it now. Sometimes you just like love someone enough where it's like you know that relationship is there, right? And it takes heaven and high water to move it, to separate it, for
mm,
better or worse sometimes. But as far as like loving someone else, if that love is deep enough and you both trust each other enough, and people are human, people make mistakes, and things can be moved past. But
Agreed. Agreed.
um, in that scenario, so now I'm at the place where I can kind of more see why he did that, why he didn't just outwardly leave. But from the
Okay.
sense of like he's come out more recently saying like, yeah, no, we just have an open relationship now. Like that's just something that's you lose me like
Yeah, it doesn't
completely.
help. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it
it's just,
doesn't help.
it doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. And then yeah, having that defense, that outrageous like reaction over this infinitesimally small joke about it, that doesn't matter at all, and going to that extreme, it just there's no connection there, you know.
I agree. I agree.
And there's definitely something to be said. I think comedy needs to be protected. Like people should be able to when it comes to comedy, like yeah, that's like you just need to put your social like yourself aside and let the person do their job. Like don't take it so seriously, don't take it to heart too much. But
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
there's a range, right? And that wouldn't even be perceived as like in the range of like in
No.
anyone else's opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It's one thing if he was talking about, what they're doing in the bedroom. Then it's like, okay, hey man, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's just their hair. It's like, hey, okay, and it's just and it's one thing I find interesting is that a lot of other comedians and a lot of people are basically insulting her now, and so I'm wondering like, okay, now what does Will do? Because
Yeah.
now you have multiple people, you know,
Well,
that are outspoken, and now everyone's saying something now. Bill
well,
Maher, you name it.
that's the other thing too, is because the online and in-person environments are so different, right?
Mm.
Like, there's tons of stuff going around where it's like people in the comment sections are just ruthless, right? Or like you see truly like people that just like do hateful stuff like online, right? Because of the anonymity and because of whatever. But I've heard stories of people that know people that do this, and it's like, oh yeah, I created another account that was anonymous so I could tell this person that they're awful because I believe they should be told, right? Or
Mm.
what? Like it's like it's awful what this kind of online environment has given us power to do, but because you wouldn't do that to their face, you wouldn't say that to their face, and that scenario was like an in live representation, right? That on that grand stage, someone, I don't even want to say the word attacked. Someone made a joke about
Oh,
your wife, right?
like that. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And how you're going to respond with all that, all those eyes on you, right? In person, Whereas like you can't really do much online. You can say stuff back, but it's not going to help your case or anything. You can't
Mhm.
like individually go through and like slap everyone online. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's I don't know. It's confusing because there's online rhetoric and there's in-person rhetoric, and then there's how big the audience is and does that matter and should it matter. And then there's how
Yeah.
severe the joke was in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I've been online for about 10, 15 years expressing my love for God and theological ideas and all these other things. And I've been insulted and attacked and, I've heard just about every name that you can name. So yes, I would agree that nature behind, I don't know, a person wanting to express themselves and feeling like, but you can't me. I can say whatever
Yep.
I want. I do see that. I'm aware of that. And the immature me used to try to battle that. I remember times where I was going back and forth with somebody for 24 hours. Literally, we would go back and forth for hours, go to sleep and wake up and get right back to it. Like I remember that, because
Yeah.
I wanted to argue, I wanted to win, I wanted to, show them I'm strong and now I've learned, not to entertain certain people like that. One of the verses always, as first verse I ever memorized is Proverbs 26, uh, 26:11. No, 26. What is it? Proverbs. Oh, never answer a fool according to their folly, unless you be like them. Never answer a fool according to their folly, unless you be like them.
Mm.
And yeah, yeah, and yeah, I committed to memory, and it keeps me from engaging foolishness now. And I did like a video about that, just not only the attributes of a foolish person, but just not getting sucked into those arguments. I had somebody recently try to do that, and so it's really important not to. get sucked into stuff like that. And I have a verse here I wanted to read, Ephesians 4:32. It says, "Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you."
Yeah.
As God in Christ forgave you. So there's almost this understanding that for the rest of the world, when they act like pagans and they're ruthless and reckless with one another and they respond the way that they do, for example, what happened with, Will, that's one thing. But for those of us in Christ, we should know that there is a healthy boundary to understand. Wait a minute, I can't hold this a grudge against this person for saying or doing this. What have I done?
Yeah.
What about those vulnerable moments when I dishonored my family or did things I shouldn't have done or said things and I don't know. I think it's almost arrogant to say, okay, um, you know, I deserve forgiveness, but other people don't. I deserve this, but other people don't. So I think
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's very arrogant. So, and it's frightening because I think one of the scariest things for me is that after Will, assaulted Chris, he's talking about how God is using him and God is calling him to do these things. I'm thinking, you're not talking about the God of the Bible with how you're behaving.
Yeah.
You're not talking about the God of the Bible. You're talking about a God that a figment of your imagination. And I don't know what type of and there's other variables that I was considering. I was thinking, yeah, maybe he thinks that he is reached at a place where there is no repercussions, But I think he's going to learn that, yeah, even though he's a rich Hollywood elite, there's still repercussions, and even some of the people in his own colleagues are disgusted with his behavior. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of the industry just for a while, and I'm sure he's going to come back and possibly recover later on. But even for somebody like me, like it's difficult for me to want to support him moving forward now. Like
Hmm.
that. You're in your 50s, man, and you come on, you have children. Like, come on, man, come on. You're a household name. Like you've made all these films, like to impact like the world, and you're supposed to be somebody that's supposed to be a vessel of love and all that kind of stuff, and you slapping your colleague for a joke. Like, man, how dare you, man? And imagine
Yeah.
if yeah, imagine if Chris wasn't. I don't know. I don't know Chris's. His brother. I don't know if you've seen the clip yet, but his brother. He's still a comedian as well, just like Chris. I forgot his name, but yeah, he recently opened up his one of his maybe I'll have to find the clip for you and just show it to you. But yeah, he started addressing the fact that he cannot believe Will did that to Chris, and he's like, man, we got 10 brothers, 10 brothers, amongst all of us, and yeah, man, we don't go for that. We don't go for that, and yeah, I was just thinking to myself, like, even as Will was walking back from slapping, like he was able to turn his back because he was just confident that nothing was going to happen to him. Chris wasn't
Yeah.
going to, and yeah, and like in the neighborhood I grew up in, everyone knows you don't turn your back on somebody, especially if you do something like that. You know that from now on you're going to look over your shoulder for the rest, as long as you in that neighborhood again, because people have friends,
Yeah.
like yeah, in certain neighborhoods, yeah, there's repercussions, and some people they don't fight with their fist, they fight with a gun,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, or they'll just find out where your family live and they'll just do something there, it won't even be you, they'll involve everyone else. So yeah, it's just yeah, I think it's important to be wise when we make decisions like that. And like I said, I think Will is experiencing some repercussions right now, but I don't know. I
I
really
think
wish.
I think it was like kind of the stage. He might have like he slapped and then he came back down and then I don't think I think he kind of betted that Chris wouldn't do anything because of the stage.
Yeah.
And Chris was just trying to recover. He was just trying to,
Well, yeah, oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
but, yeah, and that's one of the things a lot of us guys feel as well. It's kind of like that's like like it's one thing to um, attack somebody or assault somebody in the street. Now they have the choice to defend themselves, but in an environment like that, it's almost like, you know, "Oh, okay, I know most likely you're not going to, you know,
Yeah.
attack me because the position you're in. Look what position you're in, and it's almost like, well, why can't you do that, afterwards in the parking lot? Why'd you have to do it right there, right there? I'm not saying,
Well,
I'm
that's
not
the whole
saying,
point. Is like it's that moment. Are you just gonna let like okay, just hypothetically, if it's a more intense joke, if your relationship isn't garbage and open and everything, um, like, are you like then the moment passed and you lost that opportunity to defend your wife and what you stand for. You just let them get walked over, and oh, you'll handle it later. Sure, maybe it won't happen again, but in that moment they were embarrassed and the world saw, and they saw you just be okay with that. you know
Mm, mm,
and people nowadays don't really care too much. They're not so the whole thing about gentlemen and chivalry, and like, it's like it's expected, right? um
mm.
I don't it's hard because determining like a line that can be crossed or not, and actually taking action to, put a stop to it.
Mm.
It's just hard because there's so many like fundamental things that I have like tied to this that I'm trying to express, but like the situation did not warrant it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it's also because I'm thinking like the parking lot situation, or maybe if that scenario happens like in a warehouse or with some factory workers or whatever, it's a completely different situation, a blue collar situation. People will like do an altercation like that. I feel like they would do it all the time. Like everyone's like so, and even you were saying like how, talking about how it's assault and everything, and it's hard for me to see that when it was such a swift calculated slap and so much of like a backhand for disrespect is in what my eyes how I saw it. And I see people on Twitter was just saying, oh, how he punched him, how he like assaulted him, like how it's such the worst thing in the world was done, right? And how dare we see this on live TV, like,
I mean, yeah. I mean,
do you get
not
what I'm
only.
saying? Like,
I mean, I think overall, I get the sense that you and I are on the same page. That okay, this is bad. This shouldn't have happened. But I think you're also considering other variables. You do have a family. You do have a wife. So
yeah.
I'm trying to respect the fact that yeah, there's a certain angle that you're coming in that I obviously don't have access to. Um, I
If it was your
in
mom, even if it was like, well, that's the thing. Is there a line of disrespect that could be crossed where you would take action? It doesn't always, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be physical, but like you would stand up and take action, and then, but that line is like it's so far, right? And this was not that clearly. We can
yeah,
agree.
yeah. In my I try not to really talk about this too much, but in the environment that I grew up in, yeah, there were a lot of times when if something happened and somebody didn't like it, yeah, they responded immediately. But almost most of the time, it was in the parking lot, or it was after school, or it was outside of the classroom, or it was outside of whatever. And in some cases, it wasn't only the person that you offended; it was their buddies, and so now you have to deal with all of them. And so
Yeah.
yeah, so it was almost like everybody was mindful of that. Is that there are repercussions. You don't get to just walk away. You
Yeah.
don't get to walk away. Even if you're messing with a girl, and you don't know that her brothers are part of a certain gang, and the only thing she needs to do is notify them, and then you're done. You're
Yeah.
done. And the thing is, everyone is a little bit more mindful of that. When there's repercussions, possibly everyone's aware. I can't go and do this because my life might even be in danger.
Yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. So I just felt like, yeah, it was just how I feel for Chris because this is on the internet, so this will never go away. Okay,
Yeah.
even if lives to be 100, this will always be circulating the internet from now on. There's going to be endless memes, endless, and I don't know. It's just I'm so disappointed in Will, and I mean, he's obviously demonstrating that he's not walking with God. Like he's said and done a lot of questionable things, but this is letting everyone know, like, okay, this is like, I think he's talking about God, and I'm thinking, like, you're so confusing to people that may actually be trying to understand who the biblical God is, and
Yeah.
his forgiveness, and how is that implemented with slapping somebody on a show like this when the whole world is watching. This is like a colleague. This is somebody that that you've helped with opportunities and work opportunities and stuff like that. Like, you could like, hey man, let me holler at you afterwards, man. Like, let me talk to you, man, because it's not gonna fly, man.
Yeah.
You know,
And
you don't know.
it could be said that it was like a very feminine thing to do, because my whole thing is I'm hold up on the fact that it was like the slap, and it didn't seem like a physical altercation was going to happen, right? It could have very
Oh, yeah,
easily
yeah,
became
definitely.
much more,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a bunch of different reasons it didn't, like the world stage and everything, and then whatever. But I'm
Hmm.
thinking like, in this scenario. It just seemed like a disrespect, like you disrespected and then slap, right? I picture like say, like you say something bad about a woman or something, and it was all in jest, right? So if comedy's going on, and or well, um, first of all, like not a comedian doing a set, right? That's not the situation we're talking about. We're talking about like in a social setting, right? Just a couple people or whatever. Someone's just ripping on your wife or whoever, and even if
Oh
she's
yeah,
by
yeah.
herself, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
oh, you cross a line, a swift slap or a swift backhand, right, to let you know, or whine on your shirt, right? Right?
Mm.
There's certain signs of like, I'm not trying to fight you, but that was disrespectful. It crossed a line. This
Hmm.
I'm lashing out. You know. Um, so it could be seen as kind of feminine, but I just had problems of people like blowing it up, but like it seemed like the
Hmm.
end all be all. Like he punched him, he like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so that I had troubles with, and then also I think just kind of the context of the framework because he is an actor, right? He's even a method actor, right? He's expressed this. He takes his roles home with him, like he literally gets into the character that much, and for months at a
Oh yeah.
time.
His family has talked about sitting at the table with these characters.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and in his speech he references how stalwart a defender King.
yeah.
Who was the person he played? I'm sorry.
Richard, King
Richard,
Richard, yeah,
King
Richard.
Richard, right? That whole movie, right? And the whole Williams family was there, and they were tearing up at the end, like he was about that whole thing, and that's what he was making it about, you know. And I think, like I said, I don't know if he was high on celebrity, high on his status, high on whatever he thinks he's above certain
Pretty
things,
sure that, I'm pretty
and
sure that's what it was
have
actually.
no consequences, right? He didn't consider that.
Mm.
It's not right what he did, but trying to understand his mental framework, he's
Hmm.
in that method actor still of like this guy, and I didn't see the movie, I'm making assumptions, but I'm
Okay.
assuming he defended his family fiercely. That's what it sounds like, right?
He did. I have the movie. I bought it like a week or so ago. It's really good. It's really
So
good.
I plan on seeing it, but
Yeah, definitely worth buying.
it makes sense to me given his the way he is that he overtook that of
Okay.
himself, the remnant of that role in that moment, and it's hard to discern because he laughed it off at first, and then maybe some altercation with Jada happened, right? And he turned to violence, but it makes sense. Like he's still in that mindset, and he's like he knows he might win this award, and he's like acting out. You know,
Mhm.
maybe he's taken a lesson from living this person's life so long that I need to defend my family more in life. You know,
Mm.
maybe that's the lesson he's taking. And again, lots of don't, and that's the thing too, is like he is an example and for everybody, and I do worry that people that maybe think like me or however are going to
Well,
go
hey,
to
Will did it,
extremes.
so Will did it, so
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
you can do it too.
I had to acknowledge my own stuff because like I told you how I feel about it, and I
Mhm.
I hope that one day I would be like not one day like I can do it, but it was a question to me like I like no matter the stage, if disrespect is going on and it's severe enough, I'm gonna step up,
Mhm.
um, the whole like so defending what you live for and your family. But as far as for him, like understanding that, I really think he took that method acting to the next level, and he's like, oh, this was my role, and I'm about to win for it. So it's like this is what it's about. And I don't think he was making that
Mm.
statement specifically, but that's what was going on in his head.
Mm.
I think that's part of it. So
Okay. I mean, even if that was the case, let's say we go with that scenario. I mean, if it was you or I who did something like that, we would be in jail right now. You know,
yeah,
we would have been in jail. And
and
without without.
I've seen some. Are we still got you? Yeah. Okay. I've seen some garbage takes on Twitter too. It was all sort people making it a race thing, people making
Oh
it like
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Oh
d-
yeah,
every side, like the whole circle, the whole square of political commentary had a take from it to point to
oh
their own
everybody.
conclusion.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
people are saying like, "Oh, everyone's talking about how violent his slap was. I'm so upset that no one's talking about how jokes about apologia or apologia are actual violence. How do you guys not see
yeah,
that?"
yeah,
People
yeah,
comparing
yeah.
a slap to words being violence. People comparing the race thing, right? People
Oh
are
yeah, oh
saying,
yeah.
"I love all the white people that are getting so mad, screaming at their TVs, trying to figure out how to call 911 on a multimillionaire on their TV." People that are like claiming,
Yeah,
"Oh, how dare he punch him?" and like they're trying to call the cops on someone that's on their TV.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so all sorts of different takes, and it was like it was very
It's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say because I obviously have different podcasts, different political commentators, and people I keep up with,
Yeah.
and yeah, systematically throughout the week, everybody had a take, and so I would hear them out, and yeah, it was very interesting what angle everyone. Yeah, and there was some people that was a little bit more on the left. I'm gonna say, yeah, it was more like a race thing. It was more like and then some people even turned it into, um, I don't know, some type of thing where Jada is really the one that's being disrespected. Why is everyone focused on these two guys? Why not focus on
Oh,
Jada? She's
yeah.
a black woman and she's being disrespected and
And,
so
and the fact that they said about Chris Rock too, like, oh, people think Chris Rock doesn't care about black women, but he made like I guess a movie about black women and their hair and their
yeah.
different, he
Mhm,
was involved in a project of that. He funded that and everything.
mhm.
So just every possible point of entry for any political commentary is being made on it.
Yeah, it's funny because this is the first time I ever addressed it online on my channel because normally me I like to just have my own thoughts about like certain concepts like an idea or something
Yeah.
but yeah, thinking to myself, you know what, every this is about to be like something that's going to be talked about for a while. I want to give my thoughts, and I had some thoughts about him for a while now, so I kind of expressed a lot of that. And but yeah, I just thought to myself, this is the time to really express it. Like even right now, I kind of think that there are some people that like even when this goes online, this portion, you may divide this and just share about the Will Smith thing. I'm pretty confident there's a lot of people that are going to check this out, just this portion alone.
Yeah.
We can get more views than what we normally because yeah, this is like something that people are really interested in. And like you said, like just the different angles. Like even with you, like I've never heard anybody express the angle that you came from, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Tim is husband, and there's other things to consider.
I just know that I have felt myself that I like in a social setting, even with my friends or whatever, like if we're being picked on like repeatedly, and I don't have a quick wit, or, silver tongue all the time, so it's like you
Yeah,
feel kind of
yeah, yeah.
helpless and powerless. And I'm not saying I would like express to violence, but it's
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
expressing like
what
no,
you
that's not okay.
do.
Leave her out of it. Um,
Hmm.
so, and I would say that like at times, but it's also it's hard when it's like they're your best friends. you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
more so would just like go to the thing of like, oh yeah, well talk to me when you've kissed a girl that's not your mom, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, 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 yeah. There
so
you go. Yeah.
it's there's playfulness that can be had there, but it's like drawing a line and not letting it become a habit of like this not letting your wife be treated like a punching bag. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And like I said, I think masculinity is kind of faulting in society, and cowardice is rampant in lots of
I agree.
different places.
I
And I'm
agree.
just not like I said again. I'll say it all day. I'm admitting that it took me a while to come to that conclusion. Like I had to
Uh-huh.
sleep on it because I felt so passionately about things. But um, he is wrong, and there's no reason for him to have done that, especially the scenario and circumstances. But I do think it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. And like I said, it helped him to do that because of he's high on his celebrity and his invulnerability that he thinks he had. Um,
Okay. Oh yeah,
but
oh
I
yeah.
think
I think.
asking any normal
Mhm.
person to do that, given a different circumstance of where it was a more drastic, bad, like really distasteful, disrespectful joke,
Mhm.
would that
Mhm.
person step up in that scenario?
I mean, I will say that this is something that is addressed repeatedly in with a lot of my conservative podcasts that I'm listening to is like the lack of masculinity in today's men. It
Yeah.
just seems like there's a lot of guys that are getting indoctrinated by the ideas of being more gentler and softer, and it's about feelings and emotions and all this stuff and yeah and the issue with that is yeah, what happens when there's an actual threat? We're like, we don't have men to step up and actually,
We
have
talked
that
about it
courage.
earlier. It's our job to protect.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
live that? And that's gonna I'm gonna get cut up to bits, and I'm and people are gonna post stuff like where like I'm defending Will like stalwartly, right?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna come after you.
There's no please give the context, watch the context. But again, wrong in so many reasons, not the right answer. Um,
Yeah.
did you have anything else on this really quick, this specific thing?
No, no, I think we covered this pretty good.
So I have one more thing before we get off of it.
Yeah, yeah, different.
The fact, because you were talking about the repercussions of his actions, right? Them asking him to, I guess, give it back, or
Yeah, yeah. I
uh,
mean, honestly, it's evolving right now. Like
yeah,
there's a lot of doors that are, as I'm keeping up, are closing. Like I said, Netflix is supposed to be working on a new project with them. They're completely removed. Any opportunity for that happening. So and there was other things in the works. I Am Legend 2,
the,
possibly. I don't know if that's gonna
yeah.
manifest. You know.
This warrants a discussion though about not just cancel culture, but specifically with the Oscars. Like, they're going to ask this man to give back his Oscar and maybe not participate anymore because of what he did, a simple slap. So we're not okay with physical assault and a slap, but we're okay with like sexual predatorism and everything in Hollywood and all that stuff that's like very open and known. And
Mm,
abuse of like young children in the industry and everything, like that's all fine. We
mm.
don't bat an eye. Ricky Gervais like blew up the Oscars with his like bit where he was talking about how they're all Epstein's best friend.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
so there was pictures like Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey with the person that I'm getting this bit from, where they're talking about how yeah, is it we're okay with just a slap but not all this other stuff. So how does that work? Where do you draw the
Mhm.
line with that, and are you even consistent? And then apart from, well, you yeah, go ahead on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, one of the things that I started to kind of understand when it came to my conservative values is like the division between people that actually are trying to be consistent with having a biblical worldview as a foundation and using that as a standard. And what I'm seeing is that most of the people that I keep up with and I agree with, they don't look to these people as model citizens. They don't look to any of
Yeah.
and often they don't really care for Oscars and things like that. The Oscars and so one of the things that many of these podcasters that I've been keeping up with this past week has unanimously said is not one of them knew the Oscars was happening until this slap happened.
Yep. So
And
many people.
it was the same thing with me. I was drifting to sleep, and I think I was playing some debate online, and I was just, on my phone, kind of drifting, and then I seen in my news feed, you know, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. I'm like, oh, okay, and then I seen it again and again, and I was like, oh, okay, oh, whoa, what's happening? What's that? But yeah, there's this. I don't know, like even where I stand when it comes to my superhero films, and Marvel films and stuff like that. Like I enjoy these characters and these stories, but I don't know if you were to ask me, what do I think of these people and these groups? Like I don't know. There's a lot of them that they support a lot of these ideas that really won't affect them. Might be defund the police, but it's like it's easy to say that when you're a rich Hollywood elite, you can hire your own personal guards to
Yeah.
protect you. So I understand personally, like uh, for some time now, I don't look to these people for before I did before, but and even with this happening, I almost feel like yeah, the Harvey Weinstein thing, like yeah, I unfortunately my I feel like all of them are aware of a lot of the things that one another is doing, and it's not necessarily right. And yeah, they're just all buddies, kind of. And and one of the things that keeps happening is from the that's mentioned from a lot of the podcasters that I'm listening to is these are the rich elites. These are the elites. Them.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are the people that yeah they don't really they will really try to talk about a certain idea or thing that really doesn't affect them personally whether it goes left or right, it doesn't really matter. They're rich. They're out of that. They're out of that. And so, yeah, but yeah. So I mean, at this point, for the Hollywood movies that I can actually tolerate, yeah, I enjoy what they do. But yeah, in regards to them trying to talk about politics and sharing their opinions about things, that's not something I really value, to be honest with you. They don't know how it is to be like you and I, when we're trying to make
Yeah.
ends meet and stuff like that. And I'm not, trying to say they don't have any value or anything like that. But yeah, in regards to their opinions about things, like they're just not in touch with what's happening. Like even Elon Musk, he doesn't identify with this group, and he's like, probably the richest guy in the West, right now, and but he seems to be more in touch with what's happening, and actually, being a part of the conversation about the economy, about politics, about what's actually happening, and he doesn't care about living a lavish lifestyle. I mean, I'm sure he's enjoying his money, but he has a very different mindset than
Yeah.
any of them. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, just to kind of get back to the point, I just kind of feel like I don't know. In a way, I'm not really surprised any of this happened. It's like this is their life. This is what they do. Like if
Yeah.
you just look at their marital statuses, like most of them are jumping from partner to partners. Nothing's really working out, and this is just But yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. How do you feel about like the whole cancel culture aspect to it? Because like, can you separate the artist from their work, right? Is that necessary in this situation? Like, there's a lot of, Hollywood actors that I think are batshit, for lack of a better term, right? Or like whatever, but I still appreciate their work, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but so how does that fit into this? Should he be canceled from all the projects for, like I said, and I don't feel about it as strongly as some people do. I don't think it was that much of a
Mhm.
transgression. It wasn't. He didn't punch some, like, right. He didn't fight somebody on
Mhm.
stage. Like it seemed like more of a disrespectful slap. And so right now, right already, there's a disconnect with me and other people's views. Um, but for
Yeah,
that,
man. Yeah.
little of a transgression, when all this other stuff goes on, right? So you think he should like be sort of removed from some projects and stuff and kind of have less of an influence?
I'll put it this way. Moving forward, I don't think I'll be interested in anything he's affiliated with moving forward.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I
Pursue
mean,
the
I'm yeah,
happiness though.
but yeah, and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a Christian man. I do believe that forgiveness is important. But however, I would want to observe somebody that has a change of mind. Because eventually he did apologize, not the night of when he had the opportunity, which I thought was very unusual. He had the opportunity as he was and he apologized to the academy, apologized to his colleagues. But I'm like, you didn't slap the Oscars, you didn't slap your colleagues, you slapped somebody that's supposed to be your friend.
Yeah.
Like address him. So I thought that was kind of I don't know, like very inappropriate, very arrogant, very prideful, not to even address the person you assaulted. Like that was the chance right there. Man, my bad, Chris. You know what? There's a lot that's been happening. It's a lot, and it's almost
Because
like
I
he
don't think he's
justified.
sorry. I
And he
think,
almost
and especially in
justified.
that moment, he was still like,
Mm.
he didn't want to say anything because he wouldn't have nothing nice to say, right?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it was just very disappointing. But um, I, I think he's an amazing actor. Like I said, just about 2, 3 weeks ago, I picked up King Richard. Like it's been at my mom's house for the last week because I watched it and then I wanted her to watch it. So really good movie, and I would encourage you to check it out. It's really
Yeah.
great film. Yeah, but yeah, I feel like I don't know. I think for me personally, I'm just gonna kind of step back for right now from any of his projects. But I wouldn't say like, hey, everybody that I know, make sure you participate in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, you guys, everyone's, you know,
I
um,
get that.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, again, I do believe in forgiveness. I think it would be 100% wrong, and I'm not in a position to kind of hold something like this over anyone when I've done things that I'm not proud of as well. I
Yeah.
expect that from God. So, obviously, yeah, I could forgive anybody from.
I think for me, it's more so like there is all that history, right, of all in the movie roles he's done and all the things he's said, like trying to be that person for people, that not leader, but like inspiring
Mhm.
person, like that father or whatever. He still fills that role for a lot of people, but like for me, like discovering all the other parts of it, like the his relationship, how he handles it, and everything, and this and everything, and how he's a little unhinged. It does change things.
Mhm.
But it's hard to shake that. I still got a lot of value from some of those lessons, right? And the teacher
Mhm.
may have been flawed, but I did, get a lot from his performances in some aspects.
Okay.
That
Okay.
specific scene from what?
Should have happened again.
No, no, no. Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't know if you know the one I'm going to talk about, where he's like talking to Uncle Phil, and he's talking about how his dad doesn't want him. It's like, why does
Oh, yeah. That's the
that scene will
infamous
make me tear up like almost any time.
beautiful scene. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, just being able to express, like, yeah, there's something beautiful in that, and I think, um, I definitely wouldn't say, cancel, take all that stuff off,
Mhm. No, no,
it's
definitely not.
I'm definitely
Definitely not.
just I'm a little conflicted because yeah, I know a lot of the foundational things I believe in now that make everything strong. He doesn't abide by, so it's hard to take. Yeah, you have got to take his lessons with a grain of salt. Um,
Agree.
but uh, yeah, I just the way I expressed how defending your family and everything, and how I took it initially, right? Given probably all the backstory I had with the actor, right? Like how much I appreciated his roles, that probably helped me not wanting to see him as a bad guy or whatever, right?
Mm.
Um, but the way I saw it and everything, I still feel like I still feel like he feels very strongly about his family and feels very, I feel like he has partially the right mindset in some aspects, but just like foundationally, so much of it is like,
Okay, I would agree.
you
I would
know,
agree.
um,
Foundationally, absolutely, absolutely, I
and
would
so
agree.
yeah, I still have to kind of see where I feel on it after a while, seeing some of the new projects, I guess.
Okay.
But like I said, I think you can't separate the artist from the work too. I
Mm.
absolutely think you can enjoy, something like that, because otherwise, like, you got almost nothing to enjoy. Everything's corrupt. Everything has, like, you can find bad traits in anything you enjoy in your whole life. Like, look anywhere around your smartphone, your movie, your video games you like, the company,
No,
like.
you're right. You're right. It's
So
true.
if you're gonna
Yeah.
get all self-righteous about it and not, you're gonna be left with almost nothing to enjoy yourself with.
And I always think about that as well because I've told you that over the years I've become sensitive to stuff and I've backed away from certain projects and certain
Yeah.
music and yeah, and it's interesting because I have thought about that because I know people that they even think social media is satanic, and I mean like I don't see how, but they're convinced of that, and so yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic when there's this interpretation that this is what God wants,
Yeah.
and yeah, and sometimes it's not, but I think and this is kind of like pulling back on the reform Calvinist perspective is there's a verse in Philippians 1:6, the Bible says he who begins a good work in you, making reference to God, um, he will finish that work until the day of Christ. He will finish it. If he starts it, he's going to finish it. If he
Yeah.
is the author of your faith, he's going to be the finisher of your faith. And so, yeah, I do think that it is possible to move forward. And sometimes, maybe situations like this, there's a possibility, it's an opportunity for us all to grow and say, you know what, this gives us an opportunity to reflect on ourselves. Like this guy obviously needs forgiveness, and and maybe another perspective is uh, he's kind of gotten away with certain behaviors, And I don't know if you knew about the slap he gave somebody who tried to kiss him in the interview time
I think
years
I
ago.
read a
Yeah, yeah,
headline. That's about it.
yeah. And it stood out to a lot of people. It stood out, And to me, I kind of felt like, that's actually justified. You don't try to kiss another man. Like, no matter what culture you do, like, hey, he's from the United States. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it kind of made me think, oh, is that his thing? The slap, is that his thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but no, it's a very interesting.
this also has a pretty big, I guess, relevance for black people in Hollywood. Because that was the first black run Oscars, and then
Oh yeah, yes, that's been a
afterwards,
discussion.
yeah, that right. There's so many angles to play it from, but and then afterwards, that all happened during the commercial break. Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry took him aside and talked to him. No one knows
Yeah,
what they said, but there was clearly like a, I don't know, put in check place, right? Or Will Smith said that Denzel said like the devil comes for you when you're at your highest, right?
something like that.
Or something like that, right? And it is
Mm,
hard. We don't know these people's foundational references, and that everyone's using God and everything, so it's hard to take it with a grain of salt.
mm.
There are lots of false preachers out there. Um, that's another thing too. How do you feel about like if someone says it's a false preacher, like a bad teacher, and they're foundationally wrong, but they spread a good message about God that isn't inherently what they said bad? Just real quick
But-
before I keep going.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, the Bible does teach that um, you and I, we have the responsibility to judge these people. When it comes to like anyone. I think it's 1 John 4:1. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits whether they are from God, because we know there are many false prophets in the world.
Okay.
So we have the responsibility to test them, and the way to test them is, of course,
With the
based
moral
on God's
law,
word.
right?
So one of the things Jesus said, in the Sermon on the Mount, the longest time God had spoke at one time, 3 chapters long. He said, "You will know them by their fruits." So just watch their behavior, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
Okay.
Just watch their behavior. Yeah, and
No,
so
that makes sense. But as
yeah,
far as like them saying, I guess God is good or whatever message, right? Like we
hey,
don't know how
Joel
Chris Pratt
says
lives his
that.
life, but he was saying
Joel says that. The Mormon says that. Jehovah Witness says that.
that's true.
God is good. Yeah, everyone says that. So it's like, oh, okay. Can you be more specific?
Okay, I get you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Back to like the
Uh,
race thing. So it's far yeah, and like I said, first black girl on Oscars and everything. And I feel like there was
yeah,
something in that area of like it didn't turn into a street fight for a number of reasons, right? But maybe that was one of the thoughts because I know specifically you talked about Will Smith slapping the dude that tried to kiss him, so it brought this to my mind. But Terry Crews has been open about like an assault that he had, right? And in that scenario, he was at a house party or something, at one of Adam Sandler's parties or something, and some executive or something, like I guess brushed up on him or grabbed him, and
yeah.
uh,
Grabbed him. Yeah,
yeah,
something.
and
Yeah.
Terry was like, "Get off me!" Like he shoved him, and he almost got physical with it, but then like he almost like made it a fight, but he restrained himself and he left, right? And
Hmm.
he testified in court about it, and he said the reason was like as a like kind of quoting him, he said, "As a black man in America, you only get like so many chances at success, you know."
Interesting.
That's
Hmm.
what he said. And so kind of having that restraint in that moment, which something is something way more, I guess, I would say worthy of fighting
Yeah, yeah,
than
yeah,
like
yeah.
having
I
someone
would
kiss
agree.
you or having a bulge joke.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dichotomy of that, right? How does that
yeah,
play into it? And I know, everyone makes it a race thing. I don't think it's like I try not to make it a big deal. I don't think it's crazy
yeah,
big
yeah.
deal, but
Mhm.
some of these things are worth talking about.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I no, I would agree with you that yeah, if Terry Crews decided to, um, you know, lay his fist inside that guy's face and explain to everyone what happened, I think yeah, a lot of people would have said, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, I would have done the same. But yeah, I mean, as far as that, I personally, I don't support that idea. I mean, you probably already know that about me. I don't believe that at all. We've already had a black president. We have black millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah.
Kanye. We have these people that exist. So it's not like we're being judged harshly. Now, I do think that there are situations that I don't know. A lot of people don't like to admit or like to really acknowledge openly, but there's a lot of chaos happening in many black communities. There's a lot of crazy music that is being played by artists, and people are soaking it up like a religion. And so, for some people, like if they want to retaliate against you, yeah, why go after you when they can go find your grandmother's house and shoot that place up. And so there's songs that teach people that that's okay. That's okay. And I remember even me and my family, some of my peers being conflicted by that because yeah, we were listening to a lot of G Unit and a lot of other stuff, and we were like, well, we're G Unit, we're G, and it was fun, but I also noticed that I was quick to jump into a fight. If somebody said anything crazy, I was quicker to jump into something because to me it's
Yeah.
like you don't disrespect me, you don't do and I do feel like America, in my opinion, is the most least racist country, in the world. And in fact, this is why we have so many people from other countries trying to fight to get in here because they all know something that a lot of Americans seem to not be grasping. Is if you put your mind together and you work hard, you can accomplish anything here,
Well,
anything.
that's what I've noticed. Like all the people that have immigrated recently, right? First generation immigrants or people that I've talked to that are immigrating. Um, there's a way more patriotic sense. They love America. They're all about
Yeah,
it. And it's
yeah,
only like the fourth, sixth, seventh generation American that grew up here that's like just
Oh,
self
my
entitled and
God,
like it doesn't
no.
doesn't
We're
appreciate.
racist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't want to, I think this might be something we maybe don't agree on completely,
Okay.
and I
Okay.
hate this because I hate the idea of me, a white guy, like explaining to you why you're oppressed or anything. That's not
Let me tell you why you're oppressed, James. In America.
right. But
It's
I
funny because a lot of us black conservatives we make that joke a lot. But
yeah,
well, the white guy's gonna tell me I'm oppressed.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I also stand by the opinion of like you don't have to actually experience something to voice an opinion on it, right? I've talked about that
I
with
agree.
like
I agree.
abortion and then with
I agree.
sports commentary. I say make your opinion, say it, say what you want to say, and then have the audience determine the validity, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Literally. Yeah, I got you. I got you.
So
Put it on the
and
table.
I'm not huge on the whole like race baiting train either. Like I don't think there's a lot of there's a lot of oppression going on or anything, but I do think there is racism in America. I don't know if it's like systemic, but they're straight up like, and I think maybe you did talk about it, but like when you go to other places in America, like it's different. Like in the South and stuff, like there's more just the people, they just
Mhm.
react differently. And I even encountered this just growing up in California and moving to Colorado for a year, right? And then now in the Midwest too. And I talked to another friend who moved out to the Midwest too. When you grow up in Southern California, everything's so diverse, and I was interested in this because my friend said the same thing I said when I was growing up. I literally in my heart thought like, how could anyone actually be racist? Like in their heart, like truly, like in their heart, have hatred like for race in their heart. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Mhm.
But you go to other places, you get out of that environment, and you can't tell someone's heart, but like it's kind of evident they're a lot less. Just I don't know. They don't
Receptive.
they don't vibe well, right? They're more like, oh, I'd rather stay over here. They won't be, not as open to conversation. All sorts of stuff like that, that is present in different parts of America, wherever you are.
You know, I was working some years ago at a preschool for the state, and yeah, it was nice. And every now and then we would have opportunities to just have temporary teachers that would come help us. Sometimes for days, sometimes weeks, and sometimes months. Yeah, they would help us out. And there was one lady in particular I remember. Had a very unique name, Latina, and I think she had more of a like a Native American background. But I remember after a few weeks of watching me work, and we would talk from time to time. She was a little older than me. I remember after we finished, like I don't know, the kids were gone and we dismissed them, and she was one of the other teachers in another classroom. But she took me to the side and said, "James, I just want you to know that you know I have never been attracted to." Yeah, I was like, is that gonna mess us up or
No, my dog's just like screaming in the background or like whining in the
okay,
background. So give me
okay, okay.
or no, you
Yeah,
keep going with the story. I'm gonna mute me, but you'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. I just remember she took me to the side and she said, James, I have never been attracted to any man of your culture before, but but based on the way that you have been, working with the kids, like I don't know why, but I find you very attractive. You know, yeah, yeah, yeah. She explained this, and I thought it was very interesting. But I remember years earlier, there was a Latino guy that I remember. He kind of had a very not similar experience with me, but uh, he seen me working with the kids, at another school prior to that. I was a little younger, and he was a little flamboyant, so I think anybody would have assumed, oh, homosexual guy, and I don't think he was. He was just very, he liked to look nice. I'll put it that way. He liked to look nice. Um, but he took me to the side as well, at one time at this school, and he just said, "Man, I thought you guys," and he was making reference to black guys.
Yeah.
I thought you guys like were all like I don't know, rough and rude, and and he was just saying like you have dismantled basically all of these stereotypes that
Stereotypes. Yeah.
I had, yeah, just by the way that you're behaving, you know. And I think between those two experiences, and I've had many, you know, since then with people from different cultures, and um, but I learned that yeah, there is something for some people, and it could be in different states as well. That yeah, they may have initial impressions because maybe you know, people that they grew up with were telling them certain things, and maybe they listened, maybe they were receptive to, you know. I'll be honest with you. I have people in my family that told me uh, white people are trying to oppress us. You know, Hispanic people are trying to take all our jobs and trying to, and they don't care about us. Asian people are trying to, you know, open these liquor stores and all these hair places in our community, take our money and you know, but they disrespect us. And so I had people like that in my family telling me this stuff as I was growing up. And so if I would have listened and gave into, you know, I have no idea what type of person I would be. I'd be a very different person. But I had my mother that helped me and reminded me that not everyone behaves the same way. We're all made in the image of God. We all have value. We all have worth. And she didn't know the details of really explaining that we're all one people. But it was later on, as I became a Christian, I realized that there is no serious differences between anybody of any culture. This is why we can exchange different, you know, blood. If you have, you know, you have type A and I have type A, and I need blood, I can just get it from you.
Yeah.
This is why somebody from different cultures can have children with somebody else. We're all human beings, you know, and so I think it's just important to keep that in mind. Uh, but I have learned that there are a lot of people that they need the opportunity sometimes just to see, hey, just because you know Tim played football, you know, he you know, it doesn't mean like he's some you know dumb jock. Like he actually has gone to school. He's an intelligent man. Look how articulate he is. Look. He's had his this work ethic doing maybe security and look what he's doing. You know, with his wife and his family. Like a podcast. You know, he's actually you know he's reading. Like there's more to him than that. You
Yeah.
know, and they'll know that is to meet you and to say, oh, okay, so there's more to you. You know, so yeah, I do think that yeah, there's a possibility if we go to Utah or certain places in Illinois. I don't know. Yeah, maybe there are people that would have some initial reactions to me, but I've also noticed that yeah, like give people the opportunity
The
to.
benefit of the doubt.
There you go, there
Yeah.
you go. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that will judge you based on the contents of your character if you just give them the opportunity to.
I think that's super important, and it's good that you said it. You know, I think we agree, and I think it's like don't come at it with a presupposition. That's the problem with our police interactions. That's the problem, even in our store interactions. Like I was working as a sales associate at Big Five, and you know, some black people would come in and they would just assume, you know, they're being stereotyped because maybe two or three associates asked them if they needed help, right? When in reality,
Here
like
we go.
right? Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's just the first person addressed it because it's their job. Second person came in, they didn't see them, they addressed it, it's their job. And then I came in because I was stocking stuff in the back. I didn't know that person had been served. I asked,
Oh, here we
and
go. Three people. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
and who knows what that guy's experiences have been, but it's like, you gotta, like, keep your history and your baggage out of it and, like, come into with a neutral
Yeah.
perspective, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
hard because it's a self-defense mechanism, right? If you teach the victimhood mentality, it's like you feel like you're going to be attacked, so it's like
Yeah.
trying to protect yourself, but it I don't know. It's a complex situation that isn't going to be solved in this like 12, 15-minute segment, right? This is a huge topic we can go into our own video on. And
Actually, yeah, yeah. In
we
fact, I feel like just from this episode, man, I already have like three or four different video topics I would like to address, and this is actually one of them. This is a good one.
you should, yeah.
Victim.
And
Yeah. Good one.
yeah, if you guys didn't know, he's got his own YouTube channel, Unique Perspectives. It'll be over there.
Sweet.
Yes, it'll be
Yeah,
over there.
yeah,
Uh,
man. This is a very full episode, man.
no, it is. It is. Actually, speaking of that, we're probably going to wrap it up here soon. It's like almost 9 where I am. We started a little late. There is actually more I want to talk about, but I don't know. Is there anything else that's like burning for you?
I mean, I'm good. I mean, I don't have anything. I mean, I'm looking
Okay.
forward to the Sonic movie this coming weekend, but that's about
Yes.
it.
Yes. So, oh, but we didn't even get to Morbius.
But yeah, you haven't seen it yet, so
Yeah,
right?
so that's fair. Yeah, I hadn't seen. I was gonna bring it up. But I hadn't seen it. James has
I
seen
think
it.
it's better until you see it. Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about
yeah.
it when we both see it. Um, but real quick, do you just as far as like a religion thing, and I'll put a 10-minute timer on this because my dog is going crazy and he needs to go out. But do you know? Like I said, we talked about the story of David, right?
Mm.
Do you remember Joab, his like
Show
right
that.
hand man, his like the one he has in his like military that's like leading all this stuff?
Joab, is this Saul's son?
It might be one of Saul's sons. I gotta look into it again.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
but I just know that's his name, and
Yeah,
him and David are they're
yeah.
boys, right? And
Think it is. I think it's Saul's son.
I
He was really
love
good.
that camaraderie that they have. I
Oh yeah.
love it, and he's literally like David says, okay, go take this, this, and this, and we'll plan out for this campaign. And he's like, hey, dude, I cut off the river supply for this town. If you don't get here soon enough, I'm naming it after me. You know, and he's so I love how he always has his back, and I really like he's one of my favorite characters I didn't even know about in the
Oh,
Bible
really? Oh, that's
so far.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
David's
cool.
awesome, and he's really good, and he's a good king and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I just this side character like Joab, and it's always talking about how he's decked out in armor, and I just have this great mental picture of a badass in my head, and like
Yeah.
he's so loyal to David, and he's just so tactically efficient, right? He'll like sneak up on
Mm.
somebody and like offer like and he'll like come up with and like stab him and like because they betrayed David's word. It's just like
Oh,
fiercely
yeah.
loyal, you know. Um, oh man, something about like a strong brotherhood connection and like the whole
Yeah.
that big handshake between two muscle arms from Predator. Arnold and Carl Weathers just
Oh,
yeah.
makes me want to see that actually.
Oh
Oh
dude,
man.
Predator is amazing. But yeah, I just
Right?
I just wanted to see if you knew anything about Joab real quick.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm getting my names mixed up, but it was Jonathan, actually.
Jonathan is
Jonathan.
Saul's. Yeah, I did know that one. He is the
Okay,
son
okay,
of.
okay. But I know that he actually trusted David incredibly well at the point where a lot of craziness was happening, and he
He
or- or-
sided with David, like over
yeah,
Saul.
he
Like
did.
Saul was like persecuting David, and
Yes.
Jonathan was like, yeah. So there is
Yeah,
that,
but
and you're right
I thought
about
that was
that.
amazing. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
amazing. Yeah. Oh.
I gotta, I guess, reread a little bit, find out Joab's lineage, but that dude,
Yeah,
like,
that camaraderie. Yeah, no, I totally, I love that, especially in the, I'm gonna say, in the Old Testament, but also early in the New Testament, um, you get these historic stories like this that really gives you a very clear picture of what was happening and the relationship that
yeah,
these people had and stuff like that. But yeah, I think as from a guy's perspective, yeah, you can clearly see. Uh, Two guys, two brothers, two guys that went through like literally wars and different encounters. They had each other's back, and I mean, you and I know that like as men, like there's something just so irreplaceable by having like I don't know, there's something about a guy that
loyalty,
has back, man.
yeah.
It's and whether it's a video game or it's on the field, it's just something about it. Like man, we are one. We are
It's
one.
it's a really strong bond, and like trust and loyalty. It's like so essential in any relationship,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely, man.
Definitely
Absolutely.
one of my favorite traits in people, and like what I try to garner and what I try to earn. I try to earn respect, trust, and loyalty. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of us guys, man, that those are like the pillars for us right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap it up. This is supposed to be a short episode. It's like 3 hours.
Yeah, yeah. I realize that too, yeah. But
Yeah.
but now I think we covered a lot of good stuff.
Important stuff. I came in today. Caitlin was like, "Oh, what are you guys talking about today?" I'm like, "I don't even know. I don't have a plan. It's getting kind of late. It might be a quick one." And then
Yeah.
I did, and then I remembered I wanted to talk about Will and Jada, and then you brought up that relationship thing, and
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
there was so much in this one. Such good
Yeah,
stuff. Great
yeah,
job, my
man.
friend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this is good.
The title's going to be something about relationships. I'll figure it out soon. All right.
I
Well, in
love
that
it.
case, plugs, because we can't forget the plugs. Yeah, James has a YouTube channel. It's going to be in the description. You can find us on social media, our face, everything. It's in the description. Just go down there and look. Follow us all there for our thoughts, our little videos. James does little videos all the time talking about different things. If you want the preview to these stories he'll bring up during the week, follow him on Instagram. Follow him on his social media. You'll get a clue into what we're talking about.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Listen to it on those other audible audio only formats whenever you can. Helps us out if you leave a 5-star rating and review so we can get to other people, and that seems like maybe the quicker way to get to some sponsors to help out the channel. Maybe we can get like us, because trust, we've been working on getting us both like in crystal clear quality picture. We've been working on audio. It's a lot of technical stuff it's hard to deal with when we're not in the same place. But yeah, so the quicker we can get to sponsors, quicker we can figure out some of that stuff too. Comment, like, share. Tell one person. If you're enjoying the podcast, tell one other person about it. Let them know. Tell them to check us out on YouTube for some smaller segments. See if they like what we have to say. And then, obviously encourage the audible only places. Anywhere you get your podcast, Stage Clear Podcast. Just look it up. We appreciate all you guys that come out and check us out. We love hearing from you.
We do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And thank you for tuning in. Much love and much appreciation.
Yes. You want to close us in some prayer?
Yeah, let's do it, man. All right, Heavenly Father, once again, thank you so much for the privilege and the honor of having this wonderful friendship between Timothy and I. And just continue to watch over us, watch over our families, watch over the destinies that you have just brought into our lives. Just thank you for everything that you are pouring into our lives. We know we don't deserve these beautiful things that you are providing for us. And just thank you for every opportunity that you're opening up, and just continue to push us to glorify your name in everything that we do, with our work ethics, with our families, every time we open our mouths, and just encourage others and build them up. Just continue to use us. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, James. Thanks for taking the time. Always appreciate you.
Man, no problem, man.
I really liked this one. I did. It was fun. It was good stuff. And it was needed to be said. I really wanted to hear what you had to say about Jada and Will Smith, and then I had, like I said, my own takes. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, but I appreciated that. All right, brother.
See you next week.
Definitely.